happen. We cannot hide and say the system did not collapse and give reasons that are not there.
At the same time, the DA has criticised bulk water supplier Rand Water for blaming residents for the latest water challenges. The party says failure to maintain essential infrastructure has led to the current water crisis and not high consumption. The DA briefed the media in Joburg today about steps to end the water crisis that has led to several protests across the metro. Jabulile Mbata has more.
While the Democratic Alliance briefs the media, residents from Melville, West Dean and Parktown are continuing their protest. They say they've had water supply problems for a month now. Earlier this week, Rand Water said the issue is the high consumption of water that has led to the shortage residents are currently facing. While the city of Joburg officials denied any threat of a day zero, earlier today, Mayor Dada Morero told residents that they are looking for more permanent solutions to the crisis. DA Gauteng leader Solim Simanga says this is nothing new.
The residents cannot be blamed for the incompetency. The residents cannot be blamed, for lack of proper planning that we have experienced here. What we're now seeing is a response by government to then say they're introducing intergovernmental relations, where they are then saying they're working with municipalities. This is not a new concept.
He says this is not a new plan, adding that when it was implemented 2 years ago, it yielded no results. Jabulile Mbata, Eyewitness News.
The NPA says it does not accept or reject allegations of political interference in TRC-related cases that are now subject of an inquiry. The inquiry kicked off today with opening statements 9 months since it was established by President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's been 23 years since the Truth and Reconciliation Commission wrapped up its work referring cases to the NPA for prosecution. However, almost none of those cases have made it to a courtroom. Khomotso Modise has more.
At the heart of the allegations being investigated by the TRC cases inquiry is whether there was political interference in the NPA that impeded or delayed the prosecution of TRC-related crimes. But today, lawyers representing the NPA said they could not make a pronouncement on this. Advocate Yonela Nklobo gave the address.
The current leadership has no direct knowledge of any political interference, pressure or collusion in relation to the TRC cases during its tenure.
Ndoko says apart from the NPA, previous national directors of public prosecution are expected to testify on the allegations of interference. Former prosecution's boss, Vusi Pikoli, had previously claimed that their efforts to pursue apartheid TRC cases were hindered by senior officials in former President Thabo Mbeki's administration. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News in Newtown.
Parliament will spend around 7 million rand on the State of the Nation address, a spend which will also include the delivery of the budget speech in 2 weeks' time. National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza says SONA is more than just a ceremonial occasion. She says it serves to reaffirm Parliament's constitutional mandate to hold the executive to account. President Cyril Ramaphosa will deliver the State of the Nation address tomorrow evening. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Both houses of Parliament will meet tomorrow night in a joint sitting of 490 lawmakers. The City Hall has been the designated venue for the State of the Nation address since the 2022 fire which gutted the National Assembly chamber. While the State of the Nation address officially kicks off the parliamentary year, National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza says it's also an important signifier for Parliament to legislate in the public interest, to facilitate meaningful public participation, as well as serving as a platform for national dialogue.
We want to assure South Africans that Parliament is operationally ready, institutionally focused, and firmly committed to ensure that this State of the Nation address sets the tone for a year of intensified oversight, responsive lawmaking, and tangible delivery.
The address will be debated over 2 days next week before the President is expected to offer a reply. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
And 20 people have died in Madagascar following Cyclone Gizani. The cyclone made landfall yesterday, toppling houses and causing major flooding. It comes less than 2 weeks after another tropical cyclone hit the northwest parts of the country, killing at least 12 people and displacing over 31,000. Cyclone season in the southwest of the Indian Ocean normally lasts from November to April and sees around a dozen storms each year. Gold is trading at $5,062.30 an ounce. The rand is at 15.88 to the dollar, 21.71 to the pound, 18.93 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $69.24 a barrel.
Sandton heading towards a Midrand. You can still expect heavy delays. This is on the M1 northbound between Athol Oaklands and Marlborough Drive. Look out for those faulty traffic lights in Bryanston at Winnie Mandela Drive and Bryanston Drive.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 29 and 31 degrees. The top story in EWN, a high-level government delegation is expected to engage with technicians at the Brixton Reservoir this afternoon.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
Get your brain in the game and win big on the Brain of 702. Enter now on primemediaplus.com. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
"702 Drive with John Perlman" is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possibility begins here. Good afternoon, everyone. It's 8 minutes past 3 on Wednesday, the 11th of February. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. Water ministers and managers everywhere, but not a drop to drink. Government leaders from every level, national, provincial and metro, are currently on an oversight visit to Johannesburg in order to, have an oversight visit. They will meet with protesters in Joburg's west. We'll talk to the demonstrators ourselves. That's coming up in a moment. And we'll ask why Johannesburg will be getting an intergovernmental water war room when we already have a bomb squad and some other structures too. Good business for people who supply office furniture, I would think. Ferrell Haffajee has some views on that. She's with us at 10 to 4. In other stories, Paul O'Sullivan and various MPs have been banging heads at the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee. I've listened to some of it. Pretty fiery stuff going on. The committee, of course, looking into criminality, corruption and political interference in our criminal justice system. More on that shortly with Babalo Ndenze. Same business going on at the Madlanga Commission. In that instance, more murky deals at the Ekurhuleni Metro remain in the spotlight. Oren Singh has those details. He's with us after 4. And we'll look at the challenges Africa's mineral-rich countries face and the opportunities they might seize as the world's great economic powers, particularly China and the United States, scramble for advantage on our continent. Where does all of that leave South Africa? Mining lawyer Peter Leon has an interesting take on this. You can pick it up on the Business Live site, and he'll join us after 4. It's been a mixed day on the markets today. Good gains for the oil share on the one hand, but the oil price has pushed finally past the $70 a barrel mark, which is not good news. I'm sure I don't need to explain why. But the JSE first, the oil share is up by 1,170 points, nearly 1%. That's been driven by a 3.4% rise in the resources index. Gold is currently trading at $5,094.91 an ounce. Platinum has jumped 4.2% today. So good news there on the metals, reflected in the poor performance of some individual stocks. Pan African Resources has gained 5.2%. Tungela, that's of course in the coal space, up by 5.1%. Sibanye and Implats, both platinum, PGM miners, shall I say, up by 4.6%. Good day for the rand, which is currently trading at 15 rand and 88 cents against the dollar. 7% gain over the past 24 hours. Euro will cost you 18 rand 90. That's a 9-cent gain since this time yesterday. 21 rand 73 will get you a pound. That's the rand gaining 10 cents against sterling. So, yeah, rand going well. Brent crude is currently trading, as I said, at $70.19 a barrel, up in price by $1.25 today. Stephen Curtis joins us with all the market news at 4:25. We'll have sport with Tolakele Mganga, a completely extraordinary T20 international between South Africa and Afghanistan. Did you manage to follow it? Did you manage to watch it? Scores tied after 20 overs each. Scores tied, or level, shall I rather say, after each team had a super over. And finally, South Africa win it just by 4 runs with the second super over required. Remarkable game. And if you have your thoughts on it, I'm also interested, by the way, just to find out how people manage to follow elite sport when you're meant to be working and doing other things. There's a great app that I used to follow called Crick Info. If you've never used it, I highly recommend it. But your story of the cricket today, if you want to share it, 072-702-1702. Mbali Dlamini has the latest news headlines. You heard her a moment ago. And Karabo Chale is keeping an eye on the roads. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live. And if it's happening in 702 land and we don't know as much about it as we should, or if we don't know about it at all, please get in touch. 072-702-1702 or 011-883-0702. We've got reporters on all the big stories, but there is always the big story that either hasn't happened yet or we haven't heard about it. That's where you come in. It's 3:13.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So we've got lots to talk about, lots to ask questions about and inquire, and lots to think about it. When it comes to thoughts, often some rather interesting ones pop into our heads out of random conversations. My random conversation which prompted this question was a conversation I had with my wife this morning. She's not here, she's in Cape Town, and last night she went to a jazz club that she'd never been to. Was it very full? I asked. I was delighted to hear it was packed, because it's an art form that needs as much support as it can get, and clearly Cape Townians stepping up to keep jazz alive and well in that city. So what kind of people were there? What was the mix? Who packs a jazz club out on a Monday night? Well, there was this group and that group and this group. And then she said, and there was a single woman looking fabulous, dressed beautifully, a young woman who was having a great time, and added, she looked about 48. So that when I told the story to my colleagues, they chuckled, which made me reflect a little bit about age and how our perceptions of age shift as we get older. Now, on one level, it's a relative thing in a way. It's obvious. 30 seems old when you're 17, but 30 doesn't seem old when you are 29 or 34, because that's thing. But there's something more subtle going on. It's a little bit of a state of mind as how old do you feel about yourself? And the ages of other people often give you bearings, because I know some very serious and, dare I say, quite stolid people who are much younger than some of the older people I know. And so you can go through the various curves of life and maybe you come out of one particular bend into a higher number in terms of age, but a greater sense of freedom based on your life circumstances or experience. So age and its relativity. I'll start with you, Rifuel Litso. If I said to you someone was 40, a young person, 48, you've had a chuckle already. But when you hear 48, what do you think?
Good afternoon, John, and to the rest of the 702 family. If you had asked me this a few years ago, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, I'd say, that person is ancient.
Yes.
But I am turning 37 this year, and a colleague of mine, he's 27, 28. He's like, Rifuel, you're old, man. And I'm like, old to who, sir?
Yes.
And so he calls me his elder. So it's, I don't know, it's a tricky one to answer, but honestly, John, you're only as old as you feel.
Yeah. Look, listen, age takes its toll on things. Reference your knees and things like that. But how about you, Karabo Chali? I mean, does a person's age signal anything to you at all, or do you?
The only thing it signals is that they've been through a lot. They've got more experience. But
yes.
You are as young as you want to feel like, because I don't feel 40 at all. And I don't look 40 to most of my colleagues. You'll be surprised. They'll be like, you don't act your age. And I'm like, yeah, by the way, I am 40. And I don't see it as being old in a say. But I was reading this other book that you suggested, John, a few weeks ago. By
My Friends.
My Friends, yes.
Frederick
And obviously,
Backman.
yes. So the main characters are like in their 39s, turning 40, and there's this teenager who's like one of their friends.
Yes.
And she's always like refers to them as old people, and I'm like,
Yes.
but we're not old. We're
Yes.
actually quite young and fit.
I have a question though. You said something quite interesting, but you don't act your age. What I've never understood that, because I get that quite a lot. You're so youthful. I'm like, excuse me, youthful.
Yeah.
No, it's just that I thought you were like 20 something. You're very youthful.
I guess
What does it mean?
I
You
guess
don't
the
act
older
your
you
age?
get, the more uptight you are. I don't know.
That's why I say it goes through all these different curves, because I would say I was probably more uptight in my 20s.
Oh.
Yeah. And more, just generally, in many ways, on a personal level, more conservative when I was younger. But anyway, it's an interesting mix. I'll tell you a couple of stories about myself, because I was also recently in Cape Town, as I mentioned, broadcasting from Cape Talk, but I had a couple of interesting engagements around my age and perceptions of that. But how about yourself? A broad question, really. How have your perceptions of age, both your own and the age of other people, shifted? And it's more, I think, than just the march of time. Relative ages, it's more than numbers. Call us on that. 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Of course, traffic can age you if it's bad enough. 18 minutes past 3. Let's find out how it's looking. Karabo?
Well, at this stage, if you're leaving Sandton, Melrose area and heading towards Midrand, there's already bumper traffic. This is on the M1 southbound between Athol Oaklands and Marlborough Drive. Also driving through Rivonia, heading towards Fourways. Looks like there's an accident scene on the N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, already causing heavy delays all the way from the Butlu interchange, so avoid that route at all costs. I see also that alternative route, which is Witkoppen Drive, Witkoppen Road is already backed up as well. That's between Maxwell and Rivonia Road. So yeah, if you are leaving Midrand, Sandton, heading towards Fourways, please allow for extra traveling time if you're going to be using the N1 South. And also look out for those faulty traffic lights in the Woodmead area at Woodmead Drive and Woodlands. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
I just think everybody always looks at what degree do you have or what have you studied. I mean, back in the day, I know accountants that didn't even study accounting. It was better accountants than accountants that studied accounting. So I think it's what you want to do and what you want to achieve.
It must have been nice back in the day, hey? You can be an accountant, but you didn't study accounting. You can hold an executive position at a national key point without security clearance or a qualification. That's so interesting. How many of you complained about Jacob Zuma? How dare we have a president who only has standard 2? But oh no, there's Paul O'Sullivan now, and let's not care about qualifications. It doesn't matter anymore. What's Alan?
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
Aren't you tired of hearing how tough every bucky is? Tough this, tougher that, and being tougherer. But what about a bucky that's actually evolved? Confidence when you need it. Modern comfort because you deserve it. And next-gen tech that's, well, just smarter. Introducing the Chang'an Hunter range from only 5,299 Rand per month. Test drive SA's better balanced bucky today. T's and C's apply.
Chang'an, driven to evolve.
Meet Tato Mahate, CMO of Koitech, proving that South African tech can take on the world. Tato, why was Telkom Business the right call for your team?
Bottom line was connectivity and ensuring that we have the right service provider.
With Telkom Business Fiber, Koitech seamlessly connects local innovations with international manufacturing.
Get Stream Connect Fiber from just 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or check telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Smart Steve from Momentum. Hello.
Smart Steve, my daughter just turned 18, right? And now she's got a license and a boyfriend.
You're worried about her safety. With Momentum Safety Alert, she can access help 24/7.
Is that the emergency response version of Curry in a Hurry?
For sure. She can get help at the touch of a button for free.
Free? For all that and all?
Visit momentum.co.za or call 0860 006 784. Momentum Insure, keeping you safe on your journey to success. Momentum Insure is an authorized non-life insurer. T's and C's apply.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 22 minutes past 3. Let's focus our attention now on the issues that have been coming up at the Madlanga Commission. Oren Singh, EWN reporter, has been keeping an eye on things. Oren, I watched the beginning of today's proceedings, then the channels focused most of them on Paul O'Sullivan down in Parliament. We'll have more on that a little bit later, 20 past 4 with Babalo Ndenze. That's still going on. But today, IPID and investigations done into Brigadier Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi and the failure, it would seem, of the authorities in Ekurhuleni to actually act on this. What's come out of that so far today? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, John. Yes, just in terms of investigations that IPID have been probing, several investigations into the suspended EMPD chief, Brigadier Julius Mkhwanazi. And I think the acting head of IPID coming out today and really putting forward the challenges that they face in terms of investigating several allegations against Mkhwanazi, including that of his involvement or alleged involvement in that 22 murder of a Brakpan, a man, and also allegations of him spearheading a rogue unit within EMPD. I think, the acting head of IPID coming out and really telling the commission and appealing to them that they need to do something about the city of Ekurhuleni and specifically EMPD. Sort of going along the lines that they do have issues as IPID when it comes to investigating cases against SAPS or Metro Police, in that, obviously in some instances they're under-resourced, they don't have enough investigators, and sometimes they rely on police to assist them with investigations. And that becomes a bit tricky, John, as you could imagine, because it's police investigating police. So they could open up sort of windows there for alleged collusion or corruption amongst certain officers. But I think the one thing that he highlighted is that they really face challenges when it came to investigating Mkhwanazi. And despite them making recommendations in their reports to the city of Ekurhuleni that Brigadier Mkhwanazi should face disciplinary action, it went the complete opposite way. Mkhwanazi was never disciplined, and in fact he was promoted. And so the acting head of IPID coming out today and saying it doesn't make any sense how they could investigate and find him guilty for wrongdoing, present a report to the city of Ekurhuleni, and it goes in the complete opposite direction and he gets a promotion. So he was really frustrated, and I think he really came across as wanting the commission and appeal to the commission to look at the city of Ekurhuleni and in terms of what's going on there with law enforcement and specific regard to EMPD.
I got the sense as well from bits I've seen and little bits that I've heard, Oren, that he was saying actually this is profoundly undermining of IPID and its reputation in the circles where it needs to be effective and even feared.
Yeah, I think it's a difficult one, John, because essentially we live in a democracy where police have historically been heavy-handed, given the violence that our country and the volatile history of our country. And I think IPID has really had a tough task, especially of recent, in probing and dealing with matters.
Yes.
Let's bear in mind that the KZN Provincial Commissioner, Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, he's not a fan of IPID. He's made it clear that he's not a fan of what they do, and he feels that they are meddling in police affairs when they shouldn't be. So I think it's difficult for the independent police watchdog to really do their work. I think they're really under-resourced and they have challenges, especially around investigators. He made one example, John, to say that if there's an incident in the Northern Cape, for example, they don't have IPID members based in the Northern Cape.
Yes, yes.
And so it could be a 500-kilometer drive before they get to the murder scene. And he didn't really allude to it too much, but you can imagine what could happen in such a long drive. It'll take you maybe 5 hours to get there.
Right.
During that time, what could happen in terms of tampering with a scene? So I think there's real issues that IPID and challenges that they're facing, and they really, the commission, I think the one thing he's appealing to the commission that is in their recommendations to the president to really consider some of the challenges that they have.
Oren Singh, thank you. Watching the Madlanga Commission for us, as I said, Paul O'Sullivan is currently still facing questions from members of parliament. It's been heated. It was heated yesterday, and some of the discontent from the MPs has been about the amount of time they have available to actually pursue a line of inquiry. We'll pick up on that later in the show. We're asking you about perceptions of age as you've got older, or as family members maybe have started questioning you in certain ways as well. More on that, please, from you on 072 702 1702, 28 minutes past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Right, well, out in the western and northwestern parts of Johannesburg, residents who have been without water literally for weeks in many cases took to the streets today. Their protests have been noted. There is a delegation. The Minister of Water Affairs and Sanitation, the National Minister, is out on a oversight visit. The Premier of Gauteng, I think Panyaza Lesufi, is there. Joburg Executive Mayor Dada Morero has been up and about, and they are expected to engage with residents later today. But let's engage with them right now. And welcome to the show, Cheryl Stevens, who lives in Parktown West and has herself been lodging her protest in the open today. Cheryl, a very good afternoon to you. How long have you been without water? And if it's happened more than once, just the bare details of that as well, please. Cheryl Stevens, yes, go ahead. Good afternoon.
Cheryl Stevens. Hi, good afternoon to the listeners, you, whatever, yes. And it's just that I do want to say that today's actually sort of protest along Jan Smuts Avenue is early hour at the sort of 7 o'clock traffic was a moment of solidarity amongst Parktown West residents.
Right.
And we also stand for across neighboring communities that are also dealing with the same plight. It's sort of the gross human rights violation through this kind of imposed drought by Joburg Water, Rand Water, and in a way overseen by the city of Joburg officials, and specifically the city's executive mayor. Where is he? Residents are asking. Parktown West has now had zero water for over 3 weeks in the higher lying areas, even up to 24 days. And, today was actually a sense of achievement to be seen out there and with motorists, taxis, buses hooting in support. And thank you to the media, like you. Thank you very much for carrying Parktown West's plight and other suburbs' plight out. So, because we are receiving messages from city officials who are in total denial over the fact that we have not a drop of water.
So, I mean, when they're in denial, what exactly are they saying? Are they saying you do have water, or are you getting the water equivalent of please be patient, your call will be answered?
No, yeah, it's literally it's on those sort of Joburg Water websites and sometimes Rand Water too. Where it says Region B and it says Hurst Hill 2. That's our area, Hurst Hill 2.
Right.
Region B, it says Hurst Hill 2 is on bypass. Gosh, it's a terrible thing to be on bypass. It sounds like someone's heart is in failure.
Yes, indeed. Well, usually bypasses work.
Well, bypasses work, but this one, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it still says, now we've had 3 weeks without water, and it still says that we're on bypass.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, no, I'm listening.
You are there, yes. So it still says that we're on bypass, and it is just it's day zero for water. We don't know. What we are demanding is accountability. We actually want to see timelines. We want to know when we'll get, we want to actually know. We want full disclosure of why we don't have water. And the same goes for our neighbouring suburbs. There's the Melville, the Mauritius, and then further along the Commando system, and people are suffering.
Thank you so much, Cheryl Stevens. She lives in Parktown West. No water, she says, for 24 days. And amongst her many grievances, apart from what she says is a denial of her basic human right to this essential services, she feels she's not getting honest answers or information in regard to the situation. More on this story later in the day. It's 28 minutes to 4. Right, let's catch up with the very latest eyewitness news with Mbali Tlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. The Johannesburg Social Housing Company says several of its officials have faced disciplinary action over their alleged involvement in approving a dodgy R1 million payment. The entity paid the money 3 years ago for the construction of a wall at an old age home, but the structure was never erected. EWN has seen an internal letter written by the city's former MMC for Human Settlements, in which she alleges that the then Chief Operating Officer Themba Matibe signed off on that payment. The letter further claims that Matibe instructed the contractor not to proceed with construction despite having already paid nearly R1 million. Alpha Ramshwana reports.
At the time the R1 million was paid for the construction of a wall that was never built, Themba Matibe was the Chief Operating Officer of the Johannesburg Social Housing Company. The entity has denied claims that Matibe approved the payment, saying instead that an official from the Human Settlements Department and a supply chain manager were responsible for processing the fraudulent contract. The entity says those officials were subjected to disciplinary processes, but maintains that Matibe was not involved. This despite internal reports seen by EWN placing Matibe at the center of the alleged attempt to defraud the company. Despite a prior recommendation for his suspension over the matter, the 29-year-old remains in the role. Matibe now serves as the Johannesburg Social Housing Company's acting CEO, while also being the CEO of another municipal entity, the Johannesburg Development Agency. Alpha Ramshwana, Eyewitness News.
The Correctional Services Department has launched an international training academy to improve prison management. The Nelson Mandela Rules Training Academy was unveiled at the Drakensberg Correctional Centre in Paarl today. The academy is a UN-adopted blueprint for prison management in the 21st century. Natalie Malchas reports.
The standard minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners was first adopted by the United Nations in 1955. These are a set of universally acknowledged guidelines for the management of prison facilities and the handling of offenders. As of 2015, these rules were renamed the Nelson Mandela Rules to honor the legacy of South Africa's first democratic president. Today, the South African government unveils a facility to train local prison officers and guards from the SADC region at the Paarl prison where Nelson Mandela's long walk to freedom began. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald.
It is 122 rules that actually say how prisoners must be treated with dignity. It is open. Specifically, the SADC region countries will come and get some training here, but it's open for Africa. In fact, all over the world, if they want to come here, they're most welcome, and we will ensure that they get that training.
The training curriculum includes addressing overcrowding, conflict resolution, and prisoner rehabilitation models. Natalie Malchas, Eyewitness News, Drakensberg.
Industry leaders meeting at the annual Mining Indaba have faced growing calls to respond to shifts in technology. The calls come amid concerns that the implementation of new technology would lead to the replacement of people with machines. South Africa's mining industry is still considered a labor-intensive industry using physically demanding manual drilling methods. But the drawback involves safety issues, including life-threatening underground accidents. Deputy Director General at the Department of Mineral Resources, Tsediso Maqubela, says technology must also be used to digitize the South African mining license system.
Very important for technology is the underlying data. If you have your data wrong, then everything else doesn't matter. So we wanted to make sure that what we roll out is something that, one, the right holder of the permit
And a U.S. citizen has been sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in prison for offering China sensitive information. It's understood the American, only identified as Martin D., shared the information while working as a civilian contractor at a U.S. military base in Germany. He was put on trial in a German court with proceedings held partially behind closed doors. Prosecutors say he contacted Chinese government agencies several times and offered to pass on sensitive information. He was arrested by German police in Frankfurt in November of 2024 and has been held in pre-trial detention since then. It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 29 and 31 degrees.
In Rivonia, a truck has overturned on the N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, causing heavy delays all the way from the Butlu interchange. And if you're leaving Sandton heading towards the M1, traffic is gridlocked on Greyston Drive between Sandton Drive and Linden, as well as Catherine Street from 5th Street to Greyston.
The top story in EWN, the Joburg Social Housing Company says several of its officials have faced disciplinary action over their alleged involvement in approving a dodgy R1 million payment.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
Morning, Africa. This sort of things is like a Grammy Award of corruption. The only thing they're going to show us is how much they achieve in corruption. You'll see them all wearing nice, beautiful clothes while people are suffering. So I think this honor should be changed into a Grammy Award of corruption.
Thank you very much indeed for that voice note.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
LLB graduates can fast-track their legal career with the Law Society of South Africa's PVT School for Legal Practice. LPC accredited, this 4-month practice-ready course, which is taught by practicing lawyers, can reduce your PVT contract by 12 months for admission. Study by day, after hours, or via distance at campuses nationwide. The first 2026 intake runs from January to April. Applications close 31 October 2025. Apply now at lssalead.org.za. That's lssalead.org.za.
The pain of losing a loved one is never easy. It will leave you feeling overwhelmed. At Clientele, we understand that burying loved ones with dignity truly matters. Our funeral plans pay out cash within just 24 hours, and you receive 200 Rand airtime when you claim to make those important calls. Plus, we cover up to 13 people on one plan. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
So we were asking you about perceptions of age, both your own and the way people perceive you as you get older. This one, my firstborn is 28. My secondborn calls him old. She is 19, and the lastborn, who is 15, tells the 19-year-old that she is old because she's pushing 20. Pushing 20. Oh, my goodness. I do remember that. This one from Sarah, who says, if a 40-year-old calls you or Tani, you are old. And Lesicha says, just points us with one word by saying that this is not about numbers. Our question, what is your perception, what is young and what is old in regards to people? And Lesicha simply says, behavior. Very interesting indeed. Just saying it's all about how you act. Veli says, can they sprint? Veli, my question to you is, depends who's chasing you. Does this matter? I think it absolutely does. 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Get in touch with us on that. It's 20 minutes now to 4.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kelly, that was an absolutely extraordinary cricket match. I mean, you would have thought we had it won, then Afghanistan ought to have had it won, and then there was a run out which made the game a tie. I mean, have you ever seen a game that close and with as many twists and turns?
Absolutely not, John. But I think we already had the warning over the weekend when England were run close and India were run close. The so-called minnows, they are really pushing above their weight, and they're making sure that they're challenging some of the title favorites when it comes to this tournament.
Okay, let's hear the latest then.
Thanks so much, John. Well, South Africa beat Afghanistan in a second super over at the T20 World Cup. That's after the group match ended in a tie. The Proteas had posted 187 for 6, and in response, Afghanistan were all out for 187, after which the teams were tied again after the first super over saw them both score 17. Ryan Rickleton and his Proteas teammates then won off the final ball of a second sudden death showdown.
I think obviously the anxiety of that. I said to Dave, he was next to me, I said, come on, 2 dots, we win this game. Wickets, and then 3 sixes in a row. You obviously set the cat among the pigeons there. So we were just standing there saying, surely not, this can't be real. But like I say, just over the moon that we managed to get over the line.
For Australia, they impressed in their T20 World Cup opener as they made light work of beating Ireland by 67 runs. Captain Mitchell Marsh missed the game, having suffered a testicular bleeding after being struck in the groin area. That's while receiving throwdowns during a training session on Sunday. Steve Smith has not been called up as cover should Marsh not be fit enough to feature in the remainder of the tournament. In football news, Tottenham Hotspur have sacked their head coach Thomas Frank after less than 8 months in charge. He was booed off the pitch following last night's 2-1 defeat to Newcastle United, which saw them drop to 16th in the Premier League table. They're now just 5 points above the drop zone, having managed 2 wins in their last 17 league games. For Manchester United, they needed a late Benjamin Sesko goal to salvage a point against West Ham as they played out a 1-1 draw. Despite their 4-game winning run coming to an end, Michael Carrick was pleased with United's resilience as remain in 4th place.
I think you've got to have that spirit, and then sometimes you've got to find a way, we all try and want the perfect kind of performance. Well, not perfect, but, the kind of best we can be. Sometimes it doesn't quite happen, but it doesn't mean you give up, and we obviously went for it. We weren't afraid to back and the rest all attacking basically towards the end to try and find that goal, and I think that's the way we should do it at that moment, and we managed to pull it off, so I was delighted with the boys.
And AmaZulu secured their place in the last 16 of the Nedbank Cup after beating 10-man Polokwane City 2-1 after extra time. Thando Ngwenya scored the decisive goal as Arthur Zwane's side made sure of their spot in the next round, with the draw for the last 16 set to take place this evening.
Whether you play against First Division, still going to be difficult. Whether you play against the PSL team, still going to be difficult. Whether you play against the Third Division tie, if there's any that qualified for the last 16, still going to be difficult. No easy games in PSL. No easy. Remember, we're playing against teams now and players that wants to showcase their talent, wants to be seen. And now when they get the opportunity to play and be watched on television, I'm telling you, they run like nobody's business.
Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Pretty early in the rush hour, but never too early for there to be some snaggy kind of areas already. Rivonia presenting some difficulties. Karabo has the details.
Well, we have that accident scene. A truck has overturned in the Rivonia area. This is on the N1 southbound, just after Rivonia Road, and this is causing about a 20-minute delay all the way from the Bethlehem interchange, leaving Sandton, heading towards the M1. Traffic is gridlocked on Grayston Drive between Sandton Drive and Linden, as well as Catherine Street. Heavy delays between 5th Street and Grayston Drive, while if you're traveling through Melrose, Sandton, heading towards the N1 Midrand area, expect some delays on the M1 northbound from Athol Oaklands all the way to the Bethlehem interchange. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
So we've been chatting a little bit about perceptions of age and age itself, and asking you, how does your perception shift? How do people see you? How do you see other people? Lerato says, I think 50 is old. I see how people behave, and the age groups make it clear. I know some very old 30-year-olds, and I know some very lively 50-year-olds. Now, listen to this from Zukiswa. I enjoyed this. John, at 40 years old, I was once out having a strong cycle on the road, and a guy pulled up next to me and called me my old lady. I was mortified. It turned out he lives in the same street I grew up in, and indeed his mom was a childhood playmate of mine. So I've conceded to my old lady when I bump into him on the road. Let's just give you one more. There was a very nice one referencing both the president and Paul O'Sullivan. I'll dig that out in a moment, but let's bring Tolakele into the conversation. Tolakele, I mean, how's your kind of perception of age, either your own or other people's, shifted? I mean, I realize on one level, and I'm just repeating myself, but you and I haven't spoken yet on this, that on one level it is a linear thing and it's a relative thing. You know, when you 17, 30 seems old, when you're 30 it doesn't, etc. But I do think there are more subtle kind of things happening. It's about mindset and maybe very different for each of us.
Definitely. I think when you're in your teenage years, you think, oh my goodness, everybody's old, they don't know anything. And then as you go into the working world, that changes because you encounter people that are at a higher age than you, but kind of still have that young spirit. I'll never forget when we were still at the old building and we were still cleaning out before we moved here. And then I think Alistair was walking around with the CD. Alpha Ramashwana asked, what is that?
Yes. CD.
Yes. And at that point,
not
like,
what is the music, but what is the thing? Oh my goodness.
What is that? And I was like, oh my goodness, this is a different generation. And then there was a time when we were at a Mamelodi Sundowns press conference. There's a journalist, I'm sure a lot of people know him, Mahlatin Pahlele. He works for the Times. We were doing one-on-ones with the players. Then one of them called him Grootman.
Yes.
The player was 17 and Mahlatin must have been like in his late 30s. Mahlati stopped the interview and said, do I look like a Grootman to you? I was like, to him, you are a Grootman, so you have to accept that. So it'll be those little moments where you're realizing that even though you feel young at heart, your age shows to people that are actually young.
I mean, it's really interesting on the cycling thing because I would have thought my age is indeterminate. Under a helmet, I wear sunglasses, and I like to think I'm moving at a decent speed. But actually, as I was cycling in my neighborhood, there was somebody sitting on the pavement, and as I passed, she said, push, Opa, push, man. And she was there a few times. But there was another thing, Tolakele, just before you dash off. I was in Cape Town, and I got what I felt was a real compliment because we were chatting at the studio, and I don't know how my age came up, but it came up, and he said, 66, I thought you were about 55, so I had a spring in my step. But then I got on the bus to go back to where I was staying. I like using the buses in the city. And this woman immediately got up and offered me her seat.
That was a bounce back to reality.
There we go, back to reality.
I also have one when I was doing my student-teacher placement, so we were having lunch with one of the kids, and then they're asking me, like, what I do, all of that.
Yes.
And then she was like, ma'am, you've accomplished so much for a 28-year-old. And I was like, yes, go tell everybody that I'm 28, even though that's not my age.
And by the way, here's another 10 extra marks. You have passed with flying colors. It's an interesting conversation. Mandla says, when I was in my 20s, I didn't feel like I was very young, but I thought people in their 40s were old. Now I'm in my 40s. I see people in their 20s as very young, people in the 30s young, and people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s as not old. Mandla, I'm going to send your name to Durko because I think that's wonderfully diplomatic. They may need some people to join their crew. 10 minutes to 4. This is 702 Drive.
John is on X.
At John Perlman.
Well, let's focus our attention now on what's been going on in the city of Johannesburg. Many people have been talking about the water crisis. People have certainly been warning about it. It seems to me like it's happening more often. It's happening for longer, and all of it appears to be accelerating. Really, really speeding up in terms of both the impact, the extent of the problems with the water infrastructure, and also the implications as well. Well, one of the things that was announced today is there's going to be an intergovernmental water war room to deal with the city's water crisis. Let's bring in Daily Maverick's Ferrell Hafferty, who has been campaigning around this issue, but also on so many levels laying bare what the problems are. Ferrell, a very good afternoon to you. I have to read, and I will trim the last line for reasons I'm sure you know, of what you posted on X. There's going to be an intergovernmental water war room to deal with the city's water crisis. This joins the bomb squad and the high impact service delivery units and the presidential working group on Joburg. You see the pattern here? And I'll leave you to fill in the next part and ask you, what is the pattern? Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, John. So I do think it's a public administration question, and I do think that the number of external units brought in tells you that the people who are supposed to be managing the crisis don't know what they're doing. When I posted and I read about another war room, which appears to be government's resolve to any big problem that it faces, a young spokesperson from Gauteng said to me that this was a different war room. This one is bringing national and provincial government into the water crisis. So this afternoon you'll see that the mayor with the premier, Panyaza Lesufi, the water minister is coming in, and they're all visiting the Brixton Reservoir as well as meeting residents.
Well, why do they need to do all these things? I mean, I can't help feeling this is really performative. It gives them an opportunity, if possible, to set the agenda. I would suggest that is entirely futile. First of all, because the agenda is now well set. But secondly, surely this is information that is available and has been available to them probably for the last 3 years.
I suppose because it's reached crisis proportions now in a huge city, and it's across the board, all the way from Orange Farm to Orange Grove. People don't have water, and the administrators in charge of it don't seem to know what to do. There is a very good Johannesburg water turnaround strategy that simply hasn't been implemented, to ring-fence the budgets, to enable the people there to do their jobs, and we've seen time and time again how that hasn't happened.
Let's go back to some of these others. The bomb squad. I mean, what has the bomb squad actually done? Do they meet regularly? Are they able to say we stepped in? My understanding was that they were kind of a nimble reaction force that would be informed. Okay, we've got a particular crisis with electricity or water delivery in a particular place. They go in there, they figure out the problem. They've got not necessarily powers, but certainly a very, very strong, loud and clear voice to say, listen, you've got to get rid of Perlman. He's been managing Region 5 for years. He's hopeless. Move him aside.
Yeah.
We've got someone better. I thought they'd be doing that kind of thing. Was I wrong?
So, I've been trying to speak to the head of the bomb squad, Snooki Zikalala, for a very long time and haven't been successful at doing so. But when I did, it seemed to be people call Snooki and then he calls someone in the system and tries to get it fixed that way. So I don't know how the bomb squad was institutionalized, but it seems to be the opposite of nimble and fast. And what people they tell me is that because they're constantly in meetings planning these high impact service delivery raids, which moves people across the city to wherever the raids are happening, or they have to be in bomb squad meetings, or they have to be in presidential working group meetings. Therefore, they're not doing their jobs because they're just in meetings of these work streams all the time.
Is this part of a reflection, Ferrell, of a much deeper national instinct? And maybe it's a national political instinct, which maybe took root in the complacency of the large majority the up to now governing party has enjoyed for so many years, that you make institutions out of your indecision and indecisiveness and inefficiency.
Sometimes, big tents can be good things, and it is the instinct of the ANC to pull everybody together. It's how our country was made, Constitutional Assembly, the talks, the UDF, etc. So that is the political instinct. But if you just Google or search anywhere you do, war room, you'll see that it's become an overused utility that in the end has no real function because you never know what they're doing. I think it's just a lot of important people sitting around looking at dashboards and thinking like they're solving a problem until the taps run dry again.
Isn't the difficulty that we don't have street level, and by street level I mean it in the broadest terms, monitoring of targets, performance and outcome, and that's what you really need is a cadre very close to that street level, and by cadre I mean a group, not cadres, cadre as in cadre deployment. But you need a group of people who monitor and say, this particular thing was meant to be fixed by day X. It hasn't been done. We are not paying the contractor the other 30% they're owed until they get the job finished. I mean, that's the way everybody else runs their lives and their commercial enterprises.
So, if you sit on the Water Crisis Committee, that's exactly what happens. They can tell you at any given point where the problematic
Okay.
reservoirs are. They can tell you exactly where water tankers are needed. They can almost predict now where the next problem is going to come in. But I'm not sure who's listening to those street level. Now it's WhatsApp level people who are organizing themselves community by community, working so hard. They're the ones who are keeping the wolf from the door here. You know, they're dispatching water tankers to the right place. They're working with the hardest workers in Joburg Water. And for me, I think politicians have just clear the way and listen to them some more.
How much has this problem been exacerbated by the political turbulence, and I mean the party political turbulence in the city of Johannesburg? And I have to raise this. How much of this is related to standoffs over who's going to get what portion of what tender?
I think there's a couple of things happening here. We're in election year. I was looking, it's about 270 days. If you take November 2 as the election date, it will probably be a little later than that. So we're firmly in campaigning mode. But I think there's another factor at play, and I have to research this more deeply. I think lots of people can see the writing on the wall, and so what you have happening is some retirement funding happening, you know, contracts going out, little commissions being creamed off them, and some panic, and this is adding to the stresses in the system. But like I say, that instinct of mine needs deeper reporting in this water crisis.
Yeah, well, we're going to watch with great interest.
Yeah.
Sorry, just a last question. I mean, you talk about meetings. I don't know if they've reached the point now where they're having meetings about why they have so many meetings. That can be productive. But if there's overlapping membership, that somebody's on the bomb squad, sorry, I can't make it, I'm on the high impact service delivery units, and then I've got to go to prepare a presentation to the you get the picture. Are there people who may actually be very good at some things, whose time is now almost totally taken up with serving in what is now the fourth example of these structures?
Well, I think you must have David Lewis, who used to head Corruption Watch, on. This is exactly what he says, is that you've got your best minds in a hell of a lot of unproductive meetings. And so you see not only a water crisis, but also an electricity crisis, stormwater drains, because people are simply not able to do their jobs. They're being hauled into Zooms after Zooms after Zooms. Eh?
Yeah, thank you so much, Ferial Haffajee. Zoom, such a misnomer. Zoom denotes activity in the comic books. If you ever saw splashed across it, Zoom, somebody was arriving quickly, normally a superhero with the absolute undivided focus on getting something done. 702 Drive.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays,
12 to 1.
Well, you may have seen the video of the DA mayoral candidate Helen Zille cooling off in a great big water leak in Lindbro Park. The DA announcing it is going to go to court over the water situation in the city of Joburg. Why is the DA deciding to go to court over this issue?
We've been looking at the water crisis now for a long time, and there is a very good turnaround strategy. There's no money allocated to that turnaround strategy, and it's not being implemented.
The Midday Report
With Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
Alcohol drowns our hope and fuels our pain. Our streets are flooded. Our families are breaking. Women and children are not safe. Alcohol kills 100 people in South Africa every day. For more information, visit www.truecostofalcohol.africa. Increase excise tax on alcohol.
It was actually a flawless process.
It definitely pays to switch.
I wish we had done it sooner.
Outsurance Business Insurance clients know that it pays to switch. And did you know, when you claim, your excess is a fixed amount, not a percentage of the claim. For beauty salons, convenience stores, and all other businesses. Get a quote today and see why it pays to switch to Outsurance Business Insurance. Visit outsurance.co.za or call 0800 60000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here. This is EWN.
Dada Morero defends his service delivery track record, and O'Sullivan denies interfering in the work of police watchdog IPID. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero has defended his service delivery track record as the city's water crisis continues to deepen. Morero has rejected claims that Joburg's water woes have reached disaster levels that require a state of emergency classification. Morero has additionally accused opposition political parties of exploiting the crisis for political gain. Dimakatso Leshoro has the details.
Mayor Dada Morero's utterances come as the city faces growing criticism for failing to adequately address Joburg's collapsing water infrastructure. Despite acknowledging shortcomings, Morero insists he has confronted the challenges head-on, pointing to the recent water outage in Midrand. He says he was on the ground helping to find solutions and that the hands-on approach demonstrates his fitness to hold office.
I'm still fit to hold the job. And over and above the water business, the number of issues that the city of Joburg has had successes on in terms of service delivery, in terms of infrastructure development, that we continue to do.
Political pressure continues to intensify for Morero ahead of the local government elections as access to water remains a focal point during campaigning. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
Acting head of IPID, Thuso Gefelagai, has reaffirmed claims that suspended EMPD chief Julius Mkhwanazi enjoyed political protection. Testifying at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Gefelagai confirmed that he personally signed off on a report recommending disciplinary action against Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi was at the center of several probes by IPID, being accused of leading a rogue EMPD unit implicated in the 2022 murder of a man in Brakpan. During his testimony at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Mkhwanazi confirmed that he shared close links with alleged criminal kingpin Vusimuzikat Matlala. Gefelagai says until today, no one from EMPD or the city of Ekurhuleni has provided IPID with reasons as to why Mkhwanazi was never taken to task.
EMPD did not have the appetite to implement those recommendations against Brigadier Mkhwanazi. I was also disappointed to see a letter that was a fake letter that was made by politicians to exonerate Mkhwanazi.
Controversial forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan says allegations that he infiltrated the Independent Police Investigative Directorate are a blatant lie. He has also rejected allegations that he targeted former Acting National Commissioner Khomotso Phahlane to try and clear the way for former IPID head Robert McBride to be National Commissioner. O'Sullivan is back before Parliament for the second day to give evidence before the ad hoc committee probing allegations of police corruption. Babalondenze reports.
Paul O'Sullivan took the stand for the second day to face more questions from members of the committee around allegations of interference leveled against him. O'Sullivan is alleged to have inserted himself in IPID and police investigations and also attending social functions with IPID officials. But he says the allegations aren't true.
So what's your response shortly of allegations that you have infiltrated IPID?
Well, it's a blatant lie. I've not infiltrated IPID. What happened, Chairman, very simply, very shortly, was that I opened the docket against Phahlane in February 2016. For 10 months, IPID flatly refused to investigate that docket.
He says the reason they refused to investigate was because IPID was part of what he calls the state capture project, and when McBride was reinstated, he informed him about the case. Babalondenze, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
We shift our focus to this now. Ports and rail operator Transnet says it's on track to improve its operations. This comes amid calls for structural reforms to be sped up and for policy certainty at the annual mining indaba taking place in Cape Town. Challenges have plagued the state-owned company for years, costing the economy billions of rands. The inefficiencies at Transnet are amongst what's behind the logistical nightmare that continues to impact the country's export capacity, also affecting the mining industry. Nogukanya Mdambo has the details.
In the 5 years to 2022, the country's rail volume plunged by 77 million tons to a low of 149 million. Transnet executives are now upbeat that the current turnaround strategy and private sector participation could help nearly double that figure to reach the ambitious rail volume target of 250 million tonnes by 2030. The SOE believes it could also surpass that target set by the country. CEO of Freight Rail, Russell Baatjies, spoke about the company's progress on the sidelines of the mining indaba as the company looks to continue recovering from once being labelled as the Achilles heel of the economy.
By 2029, we will be on 200 million tonnes and contribute to the minister's ideal of 250 million tonnes by 2030. Coal, we want to see on 65 million tonnes.
Baatjies took investors into his confidence on achieving a stable SOE and contributing to a successful mining industry. Nogukhanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News in Cape Town.
And further afield, police have shot a male gunman who opened fire at a school in southern Thailand. It's understood the man fired shots at a school and held some people hostage. At least 3 people were injured during the incident. Gun violence is not uncommon in Thailand. In 2022, a former police officer killed 36 people, including 22 children, in a gun and knife attack at a nursery school in the country's east. Gold is trading at $5,060.27 an ounce. The rand is at 15.90 to the dollar, 21.69 to the pound, 18.87 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $70.35 a barrel.
Rivonia, we still have that overturned truck on the N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, causing heavy delays all the way from the Patloo interchange, leaving Sandton, heading towards the M1. Traffic remains gridlocked on Greyston Drive between Sandton Drive and Linden. Also still in Sandton, Melrose area. Expect some delays. M1 North from Ethel Oaklands to the Patloo interchange.
In your sport, the Proteas pip Afghanistan in double super over at the T20 World Cup. Amazulu joined Mamelodi Sundowns Orlando Pirates in the Nedbank Cup last 16. And Tottenham Hotspur sacked Thomas Frank following defeat to Newcastle.
A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng tomorrow with afternoon showers expected. Johannesburg drops to an overnight low of 19 degrees, peaking at 30. Pretoria 19 and 31, and Vereeniging also at a low of 19 and a high of 32 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, Joburg Mayor Dada Morero has defended his service delivery track record as the city's water crisis continues to deepen.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 4. Now, later today, the Minister responsible for water at a national level, Phemi Majordina, will be out in the west part of Johannesburg, west and northwest, meeting residents who've taken to the streets to complain about the situation that they are facing in regard to water in their communities or lack of. Accompanying the minister, I'm sure, will be the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, Executive Mayor of Johannesburg, Dada Morero, will be there. High-ranking reps of Johannesburg Water will be amongst the people who are out there as well. I want to ask you this. Have you, in the course of your struggles around anything in South Africa, be it education, be it service delivery, be it the safety of scholar transport, we are often in protest mode. Have you ever had high-level delegations? And high-level you can define in any way you like it. Can be an MMC, an MEC, it could be a representative of a government department. Have they ever come to see you and engage with you and hear your grievances and give you undertakings? And if they have, tell me how it went. I don't mean how did it go on the day. How did it go in the weeks, months, and even years that followed? Did anything come out of it? Because there's a lot in our politics that is performative, and there's nothing wrong with that. People take to the streets as a performance of unhappiness, and politicians come out in many ways in that performative mode where they are there to demonstrate their concern. But does it get us anywhere? If you've got a story to tell, I'd love to hear it. And by the way, I'm not expecting anything. If it worked, really worked, that after your protest, something actually happened, I'd like to hear that story just as much as I'm keen to hear of instances where it didn't work, because where it worked, I would certainly like to know more about it, as would many other people who are thinking of stepping out with their placards themselves. So get me on that on 072 702 1702. Coming up shortly, we're going to focus on the mining in Durban, in particular, the scramble going on for essential minerals on the African continent. Peter Leon, a lawyer who's an expert in mining matters here and further afield, will be joining us for an interesting take he's got, particularly on the US and China, and the response of African countries to those two big economic powers. And then later on, as we look up to see that Paul O'Sullivan is still engaging with members of parliament, a little catch up on the key things that have been said. That's coming up shortly with our EWN colleague Babalo Ndenze. It's 12 minutes past 4.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey, John and the team. That's been my struggle. Like, I just don't understand what's happening. I'm turning 50, God willing, in June. I don't feel 50 at all. I don't know if, I don't even know how old do I feel, but not at all. I feel like when people, I've got gray beards, people will call me timer, like, hey, uncle. And I just like, why are you calling me that? Honestly speaking, I don't feel old. I mean, I run, I'm fairly healthy, health-wise. I check, I don't have this, I don't have that. Yeah, but hey, this age thing. All right, thanks, Zweli. Bye.
John, I think that the 21st century is probably the best recorded account of government atrocities and public acceptance. Those things both need to change.
Hi, John. Dovia from Orange Grove. Listening to this water story, we must be the only country in the world that has an abundance of rainfall, and we are going on to zero water. It's beyond comprehension. Bottom line is, in any company, it all starts from the top. S, if you know what I mean, rolls from the top to the bottom, not from the bottom to the top. Ultimately, this should all fall on that Pons Cyril Ramaphosa. He has done zero for this country. Absolutely. He's the boss. The buck should stop with him. He should make sure that his people are doing their jobs efficiently and properly, and the people are getting what they pay for in their rates and taxes, in their water and lights, their road maintenance, etc. So this water crisis is beyond ridiculous.
Yeah, and this water crisis is with us for a while. We look at it in more detail after 5 o'clock, get some analysis as to what national government can actually do in this regard, if indeed they can do anything at all. Just one more thing on age from Teboho, who says, I love how you put that. Young and old aren't just numbers, they're states of mind. When you're young, possibilities seem endless and curiosity is key. As you get older, wisdom and experience teach you to appreciate the little things, but age is just a number. Some people are spry at 80 and others are ancient at 25. Beautifully put. So, and again, it's a matter of personal, traditional and religious beliefs that influence our perspectives and states of mind regarding these topics. 4:15, let's give you the latest traffic news. We'll get into mining in a moment.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Make your move this Valentine's. Book your romantic getaway at flysaa.com. Rivonia was a problem earlier. Rivonia is still a problem. Karabo has the details.
I'm afraid it will remain a problem for a little longer. So please allow for extra traveling time this afternoon if you're leaving Rivonia Midrand heading towards the Fourways area. That overturned truck will take a while to clear. This is on the N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, still causing about a 20-minute delay all the way from the Bethlehem to change. As a result, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on that alternative route. That's Witkoppen Road between Maxwell and Rivonia Road. Also expect delays on Rivonia Road approaching the N1 in Sandton. There's slow-moving traffic on the M1 northbound. That's heading towards Midrand between Ethel Oaklands and the Bethlehem to change. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Valentine's weekend is almost here, and this is your sign, so make the move. South African Airways has amazing fares to your favorite destinations. Fly to Cape Town from just 1,144 Rand, Durban from 690 Rand, and Gqeberha from 655 Rand. And that's just the beginning, by the way. Explore even more destinations at flysaa.com. Make the move. Surprise your loved one. Make it a Valentine's weekend to remember. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your nearest travel agency. T's and C's apply.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, today is day 3 of the mining Indaba. Obviously, a lot of the focus of people's attention is on the South African mining industry and trends and predictions and concerns in that specific regard. But what's also very interesting about this time is that the Indaba also focuses on much larger points of conversation, looking at the African continent and the fact that Africa, mineral rich as it is, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, is also the focus of all sorts of initiatives by major economic powers and players like the United States and China. Very interesting piece on the Business Live website today. It looks at the United States and some of its initiatives, but also the response of Africa to that. We thought we'd have a chat with the author. Peter Leon is a partner at Herbert Smith Freehills Kramer, an international law firm that has a significant practice in mining on the African continent and beyond. Peter Leon, welcome, and thanks very much for giving us your time. You note in your story, quoting the International Monetary Fund, sub-Saharan Africa holds about 30% of the world's global critical mineral reserves. You go into some details which I'll share with people a little bit later in regard to cobalt, platinum, lithium, and some other metals as well. But where I wanted to start with you is this. Are African countries speaking even remotely with one kind of voice on a way forward in exploiting and getting the most out of these reserves? Or is it pretty much at the moment every country for itself?
Hi, John. Very good to speak to you. It's a mixture of both, frankly. I mean, the issue that I wrote about and I'm interested in is this whole issue around critical minerals and export restrictions, which some African governments are placing on minerals in order to ensure that they're locally processed or beneficiated, to use the term. But actually, the whole idea behind domestic processing, beneficiation, manufacturing has its origins in the African Mining Vision, which came out in 2009, which is a long time ago. But what changed the name of the game is the fact that, as you said in your intro, Africa, according to the IMF, has 30% of the world's critical minerals, and that means that the balance of power has shifted. So major African mineral producers like the DRC for cobalt and copper and Zambia for copper, South Africa for platinum and palladium and chrome, are now in a position to change the nature of the bargain because everybody wants those critical minerals, and that's why some of these countries are imposing export restrictions on minerals in order to encourage, or force, actually more than encourage, domestic processing and manufacturing.
Let's look, for example, at what the US is doing, because right at the beginning of your piece, you focus on the Trump administration launching earlier this month something called the Critical Minerals Initiative. Is that pretty much going to be large powers strategy with regard to Africa, that whatever people might say in larger forums, what the US most wants to do is do a direct deal with the DRC around cobalt and anything else they think they might need from them, and that kind of bilateral leverage is really what African countries are going to be up against?
Well, but it's a bit more than that, actually, because the US are really becoming seriously interested in Africa. I mean, I'm at the mining Indaba, as you mentioned. I think the U.S. government altogether has a delegation of about 50 people here. It's the largest I've ever seen. I've been coming to the Indaba for 20-odd years. So there's huge U.S. interest in Africa because it's, frankly, become a geopolitical, geostrategic play, given the role that China has traditionally had around critical minerals. I mean, if you look at rare earth elements, for example, which are used in the defense industry, China controls about 90%, 97% of global refining production.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is, and what's happened in the DRC is very interesting because the U.S. Once one of the major American mining companies, Freeport-McMoran, sold out in 2016. Effectively, most of the a lot of the Chinese cobalt and copper landed up in Chinese hands. So this is a way of trying to redress or address that imbalance so that the U.S. has a supply of critical minerals from Africa. But the point I'm making in the article is that one issue here is if African mining countries impose export bans on those minerals, unless you beneficiate them, you won't be able to export them. What do other countries do? And
Yes.
the problem there, frankly, is that the World Trade Organization, which has a dispute settlement mechanism, that's really broken down because the appellate body hasn't had a quorum since 2019. And so decisions which are made against a country which offends international trade rules, there's no appellate mechanism, so decisions made by a dispute body can't get appealed, and so the decisions effectively are meaningless.
I just want to bring it back to South Africa finally, if we can. I mean, I'm looking at, and you'll tell me if these figures are wildly out, but a table that says we hold almost 71% of the platinum group metal reserves in the world. On chromium, we're almost at 45%, manganese 37%. So we are significant players. Are we doing anything meaningful with that advantage, particularly in a world, that where trade relations are as fluid as they are with the political changes in the US? Are we punching at our weight?
We're not, unfortunately. And what's, I think, very interesting, when this huge ministerial forum happened in Washington, D.C. last week, which Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio addressed, South Africa simply wasn't invited to the party. So we're not punching above our weight, and that's a whole other discussion because the mineral regulatory regime in South Africa is far from satisfactory. But I have to say, to give credit where it's due with the South African government, the government has not imposed export bans or export licensing on critical minerals. So South African minerals flow around the world, and in fact they're not even subject to tariffs in the US under the 30% tariffs, which they were actually exempted by the US government, because they're obviously so important. But I mean, we're not punching above our weight. We weren't invited to the ministerial forum. We need to do much more on the regulatory front. But on the plus side, South Africa is not forcing, at this stage, forcing mining companies to beneficiate.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. Leon, pick up his piece, as I said, on the Business Live site. There are lots of really interesting little threads in that'll give you plenty of food for thought. If you work in mining or you're involved in the industry in any way, maybe you want to call in and give us your thoughts. Peter Leon is a partner at Herbert Smith Freehills Kramer, international firm that has a significant specialization in mining and mining law. 4:25.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's go down to Parliament now. Paul O'Sullivan and the MPs. It's been a day in which I think it's fair to say heads have banged. I'm not sure to what purpose, but it's been pretty fierce and pretty fiery yesterday. Very much taken up with the evidence leader today, the MPs getting their turn. But Balo and Denze, our EWN parliamentary reporter, has been keeping a close eye on things. Paul Sullivan having to defend quite a lot of what he said. I watched one moment with Dereline James from Action SA, Babalo, where she was saying that his claim that he had done all these things to make South Africa a better place through his investigation and litigation for no money at all. She put that under a severe challenge. Where else has he been taxed in terms of the questions he's been asked and the responses to his answers? Good afternoon.
a lot of tough questions for Paul O'Sullivan. This follows yesterday's, hearing where he was basically talking about his background. Today, MPs are really having a go at O'Sullivan, questioning him about, the one you just mentioned now, Darlene James, presenting, a receipt before the committee that he indeed did receive money, I think about 100,000 rand, just over 100,000 rand, and she provided this receipt during the committee, and he says that he's also a beneficiary, of all these things that he's talking about. He's been accusing, police members of being, receiving, gratification from various people. So Darlene James was basically just saying that he's also a beneficiary of these payments. And, Kolangola of the ANC also, putting questions about, how he is a foreign spy, and he's denied these claims of being a foreign spy or a foreign agent. Julius Malema also having, quite a tough time with Paul O'Sullivan as far as the questions are concerned, and he was, Paul O'Sullivan, not prepared to discuss his post-school education. Malema put it quite clearly to Paul O'Sullivan what way did he study, after his O levels, and where exactly did he gain these qualifications to be, a group head of aviation security at AXA, which is a position that Paul O'Sullivan did serve in. And Malema questioning how he got this position, saying that he occupied a senior position without the relevant qualifications because he infiltrated the system. And obviously, Paul O'Sullivan is denying this as well. He's denying all these things that have been put to him by the committee, and he says he's not prepared to discuss his post-school education. And Julius Malema basically gave up on trying to find out more. But he says that some of the information that he provided the committee is questionable, like the Manchester Technicon in the UK that he says he attended. Malema says they couldn't find any evidence of a Manchester Technicon where he attended to study some of these things that he studied, including engineering, as well as going to military intelligence. The MK party also had quite a go at him, John, as well, about allegations that O'Sullivan made against the MK party, Action SA, and EFF. He says that these parties are working with members of crime intelligence, and they are in possession of information illegally. For example, the communications that Darlene James did present before the committee between Sarah Jane Trent, this is O'Sullivan's former assistant, as well as Robert McBride, and how she said that communications was pointing towards a close relationship between the two, or a romantic relationship even. So O'Sullivan saying this information is evidence that the three parties, the MK party and Action SA and the EFF, are also working using underhand tactics.
Thank you so much, Babalo Ndenze, EWN parliamentary reporter, 28 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 451429 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo, take us out on the roads, please.
Well, we're still dealing with that overturned truck in the Rivonia area, N1 South, just after Rivonia Road, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Butlu interchange. As a result, there's also bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road. That's the alternative route most motorists are using at this stage between Maxwell Drive and Rivonia Road. Also expect delays on Rivonia Road approaching the N1 in Irene. Pretoria, traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Namapiers Drive and Main Road. Kilner Park still in Tshwane. There's heavy delays on CR Swart Drive. This is between Wilkinson and Stormfall. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car full of groceries and a lady who will be attempting to make her mother-in-law's famous recipe for the family dinner tonight.
5 mils of sugar.
The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's butterflies and a potential bonding moment. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, the markets worrying oil price. Good prices, though, for gold and platinum. On balance, what kind of day are we having?
Not terrible, John, and I'm not that worried about the gold price, about the Brent crude oil price, because a forecast from OPEC today saying world oil demand from crude from the wider OPEC Plus group will drop. So demand will go down by 400,000 barrels a day. And so I think that will keep oil prices relatively low. We are in a period of oversupply at the moment. That being said, it's also a sign of a weaker dollar. The JSE All Share up 0.77%, 121,812 points. Financials up 0.05. Industrials down 0.59. Resources up 2.61. So not gold and platinum, although they are there, but Tungela's up 5.3. DRD Gold's up nearly 4. South 32 up there. They're up 3.9. Pan-African Resources up 3.3, Implats up 3.56, and Anglo Gold and Northam both up quite nicely as well. Quilter's down 6.56% on the day, Naspers down nearly 2%, and Pepkor down 1.57%. Capitec confirming today they believe their group headlines will be up by between 20 and 25%. Earnings per share up roughly the same. They say their new simplified fee structure, lower fees for merchants, also had an impact. It was also able to increase their client base and transaction volumes. They also increased the number of credit card holders. In the US, a jobs report out, non-farm payrolls showing that they rose more than expected. In other words, unemployment is slightly lower than expected. So non-farm payrolls in the US up, bless me, John, up 130,000 in January. Now, what that means is it's probably less likely there'll be an interest rate cut because there wouldn't necessarily be a need for one. And so that will feed into expectations on the markets when they open. But for the moment, traders are sort of suspecting that won't happen. And also, of course, we just wait to see the data. Still a lot more data to come this week in the US. The gold price, $5,076.17. Platinum, $2,167. Brent crude up, as you say, John, $70.48. The rand to the dollar, 15.87. To the euro, 18.85. To the British pound, 21.68. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
27 minutes to 5, the latest eyewitness news right now with Mbali Dlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. A very good afternoon. A third person has been confirmed dead as a result of inclement weather conditions that hit parts of KwaZulu-Natal at the weekend. The 66-year-old woman who was struck by lightning while at her Springvale home succumbed to her injuries in hospital. 2 other people were killed also by lightning strikes at the weekend. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
Mop-up operations are continuing in the affected Herigwala and Umgungundlovu districts. The 2 districts are the most affected, with both public and private infrastructure suffering damages. The Cooperative Governance Department has since dispatched teams to collate the figures while assessing the impact of the weather. 126 homes have been destroyed, affecting 460 people who are now homeless. Department spokesperson Senzelwe Mzila.
Disaster management teams continue to work around the clock with conducting assessments and providing interim relief to communities within the Herigwala and Umgungundlovu district following this weekend's heavy rains and inclement weather conditions.
Meanwhile, local farmers have also reported losses after their livestock was also killed by the lightning. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News, Durban.
Law enforcement officers are on high alert to curb any disruptions to the State of the Nation address in Cape Town. As officials make their way to the mother city for SONA 2026, various policing units have been deployed across the Cape Town CBD. Police spokesperson Athlenda Mate says the National Joint Operational Structure is ready for the major event. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering the address tomorrow evening. Mate says officers have a strict mandate to prevent and combat before, during and after the President's address.
We urge those without valid accreditation to avoid the area around the City Hall, as any lawlessness, criminality or behavior that contravenes the law will be dealt with accordingly. No disruptions will be allowed and tolerated by law enforcement.
Let's stay with the president. He has recounted the many secret meetings and weeks of careful planning that took place ahead of Nelson Mandela's release 36 years ago. In an exclusive interview with Eyewitness News at Mandela's prison house in Drakenstein Correctional Centre today, Ramaphosa recalled there were mixed emotions ahead of the much-anticipated release of the former statesman. Natalie Malchas has more.
President Cyril Ramaphosa spoke to EWN in the kitchen of Nelson Mandela's prison house on the premises of the Drakenstein Correctional Centre. Ramaphosa was last year for strategic planning meetings with his political mentor, preparing for his homecoming.
So being here brings back all those memories, they just flash back.
As the president walks through the prison property, a prison museum curator points out the holes in the walls and garden furniture where apartheid police once hid recording devices to track Mandela's conversations.
Like a bird, Madiba could not be caged. He had to fly out.
Today, Ramaphosa returns to the Drakenstein Correctional Centre to launch the Nelson Mandela Rules Training Academy. Here, prison officers will receive training on, among other things, the humane handling of offenders. The centre is unveiled on the 36th anniversary of Mandela's release. Natalie Malchas, Eyewitness News, Drakenstein.
And in the US, as Nancy Guthrie's disappearance enters its 10th day, the person who was detained for questioning in connection with the disappearance of the 84-year-old has now been released by officials. Police completed a search of the suspect's property earlier today. Guthrie, mother of US television host Savannah Guthrie, was reported missing last week. Video footage shows an armed individual appearing to have tampered with the camera at their front door the morning of Guthrie's disappearance. The FBI says it's sending more agents from field offices across the country to Arizona to help with the case. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon showers expected. Temperatures dropping to overnight lows of 19 degrees across the province, peaking at highs of between 30 and 32 degrees.
We're still dealing with that accident scene where a truck overturned on the N1 southbound near Rivonia Road, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Bethlehem interchange. Also, as a result of that accident scene, that alternative route of Witkoppen Road heavily backed up between Maxwell and Rivonia Road.
The top story in EWN, a third person has been confirmed dead as a result of inclement weather conditions that have hit parts of KwaZulu-Natal at the weekend.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
We've spoken about water issues, water wastage. How did we get here, Dr. Adam?
It's what happens when you don't spend the right amount of money on maintenance over an extended period and where you lose money because of corruption.
Dr. Adam, I want you to stay on the line. Rose, you're a senior citizen. How long have you been without water?
We're going on for our third week now, and when I say we have no water, I don't mean low pressure, I mean not a drop. You know, I'm 87 years old and I live alone. It is really quite a struggle.
Sure. Dr. Adam, do you think this minister, Minister Phemi Majodina, is she the right one? Clouds are gathering?
No.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Joburg Ballet presents Giselle, the most sublime of all romantic ballets, at the Joburg Theatre from Thursday 12 February to Sunday 15 February. Giselle is a heart-rending story of love so powerful that it reaches from beyond the grave. It lays bare a tale of passion, betrayal and forgiveness, with one of the greatest of all ballerina roles at its core. There'll be 2 Valentine's Day performances at the Joburg Theatre on Saturday 14 February at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. It's the ideal opportunity to celebrate this romantic ballet with your Valentine. And later this month, Giselle will be at the South African State Theatre in Pretoria from Friday 20 February to Sunday 22 February. You can book tickets for Giselle at webtickets.co.za.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. It's easy to apply. No medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS funeral to 31586. That's 31586. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
For Onwetu Ngumalo of Ozide Rentals and Custom Dressmaking, every stitch is a story. What's your Telkom business chapter?
What made Telkom business stand out from all the rest was how fast everything was.
And with voice calling and fiber from Telkom Business, she stitches together inquiries and sources fabric online without dropping a thread.
Get unlimited VoIP 1 from 99 Rand per month and Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telkom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kelly, a very good afternoon to you. A wonderful T20 World Cup game. South Africa versus Afghanistan, coached by, I believe, by Cape Town boy Jonathan Trott, but history made in the game.
Absolutely, John. That's when their group match required 2 super overs before the Proteas went on to win. South Africa had posted 187 for 6, and in response, Afghanistan were all out for the same score, after which the teams were tied again after a first super over saw them both score 17. Ryan Rickleton and his teammates then won off the final ball of a second sudden death showdown.
You know, Quinny and I, and we're kind of, you know, we weren't options, I suppose, but I mean, that's why you got guys like Miller and Stubbs, guys that can finish games, that can hit those low full tosses for 6, and that last shot of Stubbo to hit that low full toss for 6 to take us to the second over proves exactly why, you know, they're worth their money. It's incredibly difficult, but the discussion was always our big hitters, Brevis, Stubbs, Miller were always going to be the 3.
India opener Abhishek Sharma has been discharged from hospital having been treated for an upset stomach. The left-hander is doubtful for the Group A fixture against Namibia tomorrow. That's after he was admitted to a Delhi hospital having missed training with a stomach issue that he carried from the opener in Mumbai. For Jasprit Bumrah, he's expected to return for the second group game after missing the opener due to having a fever. Switching over to the Premier League, where the midweek action continues with 5 games scheduled this evening, including Liverpool away to Sunderland. And as Arne Slot says, nothing less than perfection will do for the Reds as they seek to finish in the top 4.
Close to perfection because of the points we are behind. We also know that it's different when you are 4 points behind a team that's 18th or 19th in the league, because they usually don't pick up as many points as the number 3, 4 or 5 picks up. So to close the gap of 4 or 5 points towards the number 3, 4 or 5, that means you have to win a lot, and that's not what we've done this season a lot, so that's why that has to be better and we have to come close to perfection.
Roberto De Zerbi has left Marseille by mutual agreement days after they were thrashed 5-0 by PSG. The Italian had been in charge since 2024 and has been linked with the return to the Premier League. Marseille have crashed out of the UEFA Champions League and were well beaten at PSG on Sunday to leave them 4th in League One. And tickets for the Soweto derby between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates at the FNB Stadium on the 28th of February have officially sold out. Amakosi announced the availability of tickets on Monday, but within a day they were all snapped up. It's the first league meeting of the season between the rivals who are involved in the Betway Premiership title race. The Buccaneers are top of the table with 35 points. That's 5 more than Amakosi. Tola Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
17 minutes to 5. This EWN Traffic is brought to you by Cars.coza. Let's find what moves you. We've had problems for a while now in Rivonia. They seem to be persisting. Some things to keep an eye out for as well in other parts of Gauteng. Here's Karabo Charlie.
Yeah, I'm afraid it's not getting any better in the Rivonia area. We still have that overturned truck on the N1 South just after Rivonia Road, causing about a 30-minute delay from the Patlu interchange. As a result, those alternative routes are also heavily backed up. This include Witkoppen Road between Maxwell and Rivonia Road. Huge delays on Rivonia Road, as well as Bowling Avenue. This is approaching the N1. Sandton traveling towards Midrand. Heavy delays. M1 North from Ethel Oakland to the Patlu interchange in Edenville. Slow-moving traffic. This is heading towards Bedford View. R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange, while in Tshwane. Irene area at traffic sluggish approaching the intersection of Nelmapers and Main Road. Also slow-moving traffic in Kilner Park on CR Swart Drive between Wilkinson and Stormfall. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
It's Carl de Koza here in another Carl de Koza production starring Carl de Koza and Cars.Koza. In this country, we don't just drive cars, we love cars. So slide into our DMs on WhatsApp and let's find what moves you.
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Maboja, 1 to 3 p.m.
How did you learn to be a woman? I was fortunate that I was surrounded by women growing up, yet at some point in life, I had to actually realize that I really needed to do inner work because not everything that I was taught helped to contribute positively in my life.
We were always told that men doesn't cry.
Yes.
And I have 2 girls, 1 boy. And then what will happen if one day something happened in my house and then my boy is the one who crying more than the girls?
702 Afternoons.
With Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
You could show your bank balance some love this month with awesome car insurance savings from Outsurance, like 43-year-old Gloria, who saves an unbelievable 513 Rand on her 2024 Audi Q3. Get a quote now, and if Outsurance can't save you money, ask for 500 Rand or 1,500 Rand if you've been claim-free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS the word OUT to 45142. That's OUT to 45142. Outsurance, licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's and information online.
We're on the ground and in the air with Thulani Sijo, founder of Take a Pic Drones. What's the flight plan for your connectivity?
The need for stable network connectivity is an absolute must in my field.
And with Telkom Business Fiber and Flexon, Thulani uploads high-res tower inspections and navigates seamlessly on the go.
Get Stream Connect Fiber from 399 Rand per month and Flexon 4 Pro from 219 Rand per month. Call 10213 or click telcom.co.za. T's and C's apply. Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Fashion, art, and music all come together for one incredible day at Mahindra Fusion Fest 2026, powered by 702. To find out more, we chatted to Mahindra South Africa CEO Rajesh Gupta.
Mahindra Fusion Fest has been first conceived for South Africa last year, and this idea has a philosophy known as Ubuntu about Vasudevaya Kutumbakam, which says the entire world is a family, which is saying together we rise. We've been working upon is celebrating this youthful vibrancy of this rainbow nation.
Hit primemediaplus.com for the full interview and get the lowdown on Mahindra Fusion Fest 2026, powered by 702. 7 March, Sunbet Arena. Tickets now at Ticketmaster.
When the brightest brains collide in the biggest general knowledge quiz in Gauteng, it's time for the Brain of 702.
It is time to put your brilliance on display in the Brain of 702. Prove your mental might for your chance to win a share of 130,000 Rand in cash. And of course, there's the highly coveted title of the Brain of 702. You could win 1,500 Rand in this round and another 1,500 if you win tomorrow on Breakfast with Bongani Bingwa. The Brain of 702. Your brain, our stage. So, are you ready to step into the spotlight? As I said, the winner of this round gets 1,500 Rand and will be crowned the brain of the day. They'll go on to play again tomorrow and possibly through the rest of the week. And then, of course, there's Friday afternoon, where they stand to win 10,000 Rand as the weekly brain of 702. Ultimately, you could go on to win a further 30,000 Rand should you be declared the brain of 702. To be a part of the action, register on primemediaplus.com and we could call to put you through our qualifier. Well, we have now a couple of people who have gone through all of those stages. One of them has been competing since yesterday afternoon and is still standing and flourishing. Sandra van Rensburg on the line from Midrand. This morning you got 6. Yesterday you were triumphant as well. Very good afternoon to you and good luck.
Thank you, John.
Joining us as well, competing for the first time on the line from Pretoria, Nompu Nzuza is joining us, ready to play brain. And Nompu, the very good luck, best of luck to you as well.
Thank you.
Okay, let me remind you both of the rules. You have 60 seconds to answer 15 questions. The contestant who gets the most answers correct is the winner. If scores are equal, we will play sudden death, as indeed we had to do yesterday afternoon. Just to remind you, there's always a question that asks you to spell a word. Always have a stab at that. If you pass, I will spell the word anyway, so no time will be saved by doing that. So here we go. We're all set. I have a whole lot of questions in front of me. I have 2 contestants. I have 4 scorekeepers. I have Karabo Malapile, who's managing the clock, and Karabo and Sandra, your time starts now.
3, 2, 1.
Spell the word penguin.
Penguine.
Incorrect. In which South African province are the Howick Falls?
KZN.
Correct. True or false? The Egyptian god of the sun was known as Helios.
False.
Correct. Complete the title of the Dr. Seuss book, Green Eggs and What?
False.
Ham. Are the cranial nerves in your head or your foot?
Head.
Correct. On which continent are the 2 most populated countries in the world?
China. Asia.
Correct. Which South African bird has the largest eyes?
Ostrich.
Correct. Complete the Disney song, When You Wish Upon a What?
Star.
Correct. True or false? The Secret Service code name for Barack Obama was Renegade.
True.
Correct. A pirate flag is called a jolly what?
False.
Roger. Okay. So you answered 10 questions, and I'm just looking. Let's just get the team. Okay. There is consensus. Sandra, you got 6 this morning. You obviously are getting revved up in the afternoon because you managed to get 7. So that's an improvement on this morning. Is it, though, sufficient to hold off Nompu Nzuza, who is challenging you from Pretoria? Nompu, very good afternoon to you once again. And your time starts now.
3, 2, 1.
Spell the word prelude.
Prelude.
In which South African province are the Sudwala Caves?
Pass.
In Mpumalanga. True or false? The Egyptian god of death was known as Anubis.
True.
Correct. Complete the title of the Dr. Seuss book, The Cat in the What?
Hat.
Correct. Are the digital nerves in your toes or your neck?
In your toes.
Correct. On which continent are the 2 smallest countries in the world?
Europe.
Correct. Which South African bird runs the fastest?
Ostrich.
Correct. Complete the Disney song, Whistle While You What?
Pass.
Work. True or false? The Secret Service code name for Michelle Obama was Resistance.
True.
False. A pirate flag shows a what and a crossbones?
Scout.
Correct. What name beginning? Okay. So you also answered 10, and you also, Nompu, scored 7. What is it with Afternoon Drive and Sandra van Rensburg that we always end up going to tie breaks? But that is exactly what we are going to do. So a tie break it is. Nompu Nzuza and Sandra van Rensburg have both come up with 7. So now we play again. Okay, Sandra, you go first. Which public holiday is celebrated on the 25th of December?
Christmas.
Correct. Nompu, which public holiday is celebrated on the 1st of January?
New Year's Day.
Correct. What kind of animal, Sandra, is the fictional character Winnie the Pooh?
A bear.
Correct. Nompu, what kind of animal is the fictional character Paddington?
A bear.
Yep. Right. Back to you, Sandra. Which country has a region called Flanders?
Denmark. Belgium.
Belgium, correct. Okay. Which country, Nompu, has a region called Andalusia?
No, pass.
No, you have a go at it. You've got a pass won't help you. Give it a guess.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Which country? Nope, I think you've got the question. Which country has a region called Andalusia? Answer straight away.
Brazil.
No. Spain. Bad luck to you, Nompu.
Oh.
You took us deep into sudden death, but not quite enough. Andalusia is in Spain. So, congratulations, Sandra van Rensburg. Tie breaks or not, you are our reigning brain and the brain of the day. You've won 1,500 Rand thanks to 702. And tomorrow morning, you will play again with Bongani Bingwa. If you're still standing after that round, you will be the brain of the day and continue the battle for brilliance. For a chance to prove your mental might and to win your share of 130,000 Rand, visit primemediaplus.com to register. You could become the brain of 702 and walk away with the ultimate general knowledge prize. This is 702 Drive. It's 4 minutes to 5.
You're now listening to 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702.
Call John
on 011
883
0702.
Okay, let's continue our focus on the water crisis facing Johannesburg. Our reporter Dima Katso is out tracking the movements of the various heads of government, different departments. The Minister of Water and Sanitation, Phemi Majordina, is there. Premier Panyaza Lesufi is on this as well. Dimakatso Lishoro, I'm sure we'll be listening to what they say. Dada Morero, Executive Mayor, also in the party. We'll hear from Dimakatso at about 12 minutes past 5. But let's take it back to the level at which it's been very prominent today. Out on the streets, residents of areas like Melville, Emerentia, Parktown West and others took to the streets today to make their feelings about having no water known. Liz is calling us from Melville and is, I believe, Liz, you've been without water for 23 days. How have you coped, if indeed you have? Good afternoon.
Hi, John. Well, apart from not standing too close together.
Yes.
No, I'm very lucky. I invested in a water tank a few years ago,
right,
which cost me an arm and a leg. But you know, what about those who can't afford that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the protests have certainly drawn attention. Government is sending all sorts of people out to have a look at what's going on.
Yes. None of them were at the protests this morning in Melville. Not a single representative.
So if they were to come to Melville, I mean, and there was an engagement, and we'll keep everybody posted, by the way, as to where this delegation is going. But I mean, what answer would satisfy you as something that makes a meaningful difference to you?
Well, John, firstly, this has been going on for years.
Yes.
Years, on and off. You know, every few months, or we would have water till about 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and then nothing till 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. The answer that we are looking for is the truth.
Yes.
Simply put, because we've been gaslit, we've been told so many lies, misinformation, no information. And, you know, the dams, I'm told, are at a high level because of the rainy season. Nobody disputes that in Gauteng.
Yes.
So if they say that there's not enough water to supply us, what? Has our population doubled or tripled in a few years? That's nonsense. We all know that's nonsense. And there are excuses of cutting off the water or not supplying water. It's always been, no, we're fixing the infrastructure. So you've been doing that for what, 6, 7 years? And it hasn't worked. We can't believe that to be the truth. I have a few suspicions, and I'm really not a conspiracy theorist. I don't believe the earth is flat.
Right.
I wonder, because yesterday Rand Water announced that they will be throttling Joburg water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Does that mean Joburg Water didn't pay their bills?
Liz, thank you. A question that certainly needs asking and answering on the line to us from Melville. More on this story after 5 o'clock. We'll be, as I said, talking to Dimakatso Leshoro out, tracking the movement of the Minister, the Premier, the responsible MMC, I'm sure, Joburg Water, and the Executive Mayor, Dada Morero. I'm just looking at some pictures. It appears they're out in Brixton at the moment, where residents have also made their feelings known. That story after 5, and then the all-important overview. Why is this happening? Because it's multi-causal, even if all of us have our major reason why we believe it's such a mess. But crucially, what can be done about it and by when? 702 Drive, it's 5 o'clock.
This is EWN.
Morero says he is still fit to lead Joburg, dry taps and all, and preparations for Sona are underway. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Johannesburg Mayor Dada Morero has defended his service delivery track record as the city's water crisis continues to deepen. Morero has rejected claims that Joburg's water woes have reached disaster levels that require a state of emergency classification. Morero has additionally accused opposition political parties of exploiting the crisis for political gain. Dimakatso Leshoro has the details.
Mayor Dada Morero's utterances come as the city faces growing criticism for failing to adequately address Joburg's collapsing water infrastructure. Despite acknowledging shortcomings, Morero insists he has confronted the challenges head-on, pointing to the recent water outage in Midrand. He says he was on the ground helping to find solutions and that the hands-on approach demonstrates his fitness to hold office.
I'm still fit to hold the job. And over and above the water business, the number of issues that the city of Joburg has had successes on in terms of service delivery, in terms of infrastructure development, that we continue to do.
Political pressure continues to intensify for Morero ahead of the local government elections as access to water remains a focal point during campaigning. Dimakatso Leshoro, Eyewitness News.
The families of apartheid-era victims have accused former presidents Jacob Zuma and Thabo Mbeki of being disrespectful for instituting legal battles against the TRC inquiry. The commission began its work today with opening statements from the parties involved. It's investigating allegations of political interference and attempts to delay or the prosecution of those cases. Last month, a recusal application by the former presidents failed, but today the commission heard that Zuma has approached the High Court and Mbeki intends to do the same. They want the commission's chair, retired Justice Sisi Hampepe, to recuse herself, accusing her of bias. Speaking on behalf of the aggrieved families, Lukhanyo Kalata believes these applications are to obstruct the work of the commission.
It just basically shows really what Mbeki and Zuma, what they actually think of us, right? So Mr. Mbeki and Zuma, they become presidents because our loved ones here laid down their lives for this democracy.
Hlekani Rikotso, sister of Ignatius Mdebule, who disappeared in 1987, says she is surprised by Zuma's resistance.
I, for one, I know that President Zuma knew my brother in person, and surely he would be interested in knowing what happened to him. I am surprised that he is one of the people who are actually delaying or refusing to come.
Acting head of IPID, Thuso Gifelagai, has reaffirmed claims that suspended EMPD chief Julius Mkhwanazi enjoyed political protection. Testifying at the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, Gifelagai confirmed that he personally signed off on a report recommending disciplinary action against Mkhwanazi. Mkhwanazi was at the center of several probes by IPID, being accused of leading a rogue EMPD unit implicated in the 2022 murder of a man in Brakpan. During his testimony at the Madlanga Commission, Mkhwanazi confirmed that he shared close links with alleged criminal kingpin and tenderpreneur Vusimuzi Matlala. Gifelagai says until today, no one from EMPD or the city of Ekurhuleni has provided IPID with reasons as to why Mkhwanazi was never taken to task.
MPD did not have the appetite to implement those recommendations against Brigadier Mkhwanazi. I was also disappointed to see a letter that was a fake letter that was made by politicians to exonerate Mkhwanazi.
Let's move to the Western Cape now. Parliament will be spending around 7 million rand on the State of the Nation address, a spend which also includes the delivery of the budget speech in 2 weeks' time. National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza says SONA is more than just a ceremonial occasion. She says it serves to reaffirm Parliament's constitutional mandate to hold the executive to account. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering the State of the Nation address tomorrow evening. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
Both Houses of Parliament will meet tomorrow night in a joint sitting of 490 lawmakers. The City Hall has been the designated venue for the State of the Nation address since the 2022 fire, which at the National Assembly chamber. While the State of the Nation address officially kicks off the parliamentary year, National Assembly Speaker Thoko Didiza says it's also an important signifier for Parliament to legislate in the public interest, to facilitate meaningful public participation, as well as serving as a platform for national dialogue.
We want to assure South Africans that Parliament is operationally ready, institutionally focused, and firmly committed to ensure that this State of the Nation address sets the tone for a year of intensified oversight, responsive lawmaking, and tangible delivery.
The address will be debated over 2 days next week before the President is expected to offer a reply. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Please note the following story contains some disturbing details. The French woman who survived mass rapes organized by her husband is set to go public with the details in her upcoming book. Extracts from A Hymn to Life, Shame Has to Change Sides, published in the newspaper Le Monde, will be published worldwide in 22 languages next week. Pellicott became a global symbol of courage and the fight against sexual violence during the trial of her ex-husband and dozens of men who raped her while she was unconscious. The court found her ex, Dominique Pellicott, guilty on all charges and sentenced him to 20 years in prison, which was the maximum possible. Gold is trading at $5,059.73 an ounce. The rand is at 15.91 to the dollar, 21.73 to the pound, 18.87 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $70.61 a barrel.
We're still dealing with that accident scene where a truck overturned on the N1 southbound in the Rivonia area. This happened just after Rivonia Road, and it's still causing about a 30-minute delay from the Patlu interchange. In Edenville, slow-moving traffic R24 westbound between Edenville Road and the Gilulis interchange, and in Wonderboom, that's in Pretoria, there's delays on Steve Biko Road between Fred Nicholson and the Wonderboom Hoërskool.
In your sport, the Proteas survived 2 super overs to down Afghanistan at the T20 World Cup. Ben Stokes has surgery, having been hit in the face by a ball, and Pep Guardiola tells Erling Haaland he shouldn't put pressure on himself to score.
A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon showers expected. Joburg drops to overnight lows of 19 degrees, peaking at 30. Pretoria 19 and 31, and Vereeniging also at a low of 19, maxing out at 32 degrees. The top story in EWN. Joburg Mayor Dada Morero has defended his service delivery track record as the city's water crisis continues to deepen.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
702.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 5. Over the next half an hour, we're going to be focusing very much on the water situation in Johannesburg, but also focusing on the water situation as it's been played out in other cities in South Africa. It certainly is a significant problem out in Tshwane as well. I mention that because our second guest as we tackle this topic is Professor Anthony Turton, who's an expert not just on what's going on in Joburg, but has a very broad and wide perspective on the roots, causes, and hopefully resolution of the water crisis facing a number of places in Johannesburg, towns and cities, big and small. He's with us at about 20 past 5. Before that, our EWN colleague Dimakatso Lishoro is currently out in Brixton, where various government leaders are engaging with unhappy residents. 702 Drive, we'd love to get your thoughts on this issue and on any other issue indeed that you think we need to get your view on. Do give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. It's 10 past 5.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hey, afternoon, Tate John. Or breakfast, Tate John. Let me break it down to you. It is unfortunate that people start with a march. Ne? We hand in the memorandum, poor service delivery. Then it follows with a protest. Ne? We protest there for a certain time. Then nothing happens. Now they want us to strike in Tate John. The last resort is striking. And striking involves burning tires, blockading the roads. Then something happens. That's why I'm saying it's very sad. Because they know, even those guys who are handing in memorandum, it was just a march. From a march, they'll protest, and then from a protest, they're going to strike. Then the politicians are happy. Once they see people burning tires, barricading road, that's when they start to act. It's like they are promoting it to be like that in Tate John, because if you go and hand in a memorandum, nothing happens. They want you to strike, to vandalize things. It's unfortunate. Thank you, Tate John.
Hi, John Perlman and listeners. Unfortunately, the population of South Africa has almost doubled. It's so tiring when you hear Ramaphosa say, I inherited this problem. Well, you didn't actually inherit a problem of overpopulation. You invited a problem of overpopulation. I'm not saying that people that have come across the border didn't deserve to come across the border. Obviously, there were problems in their countries. But now the problems come over to our country, where we have got the infrastructure to meet the number of persons in our country. There's not enough schools. There's not enough water. The roads are all being dug up because we're trying to maintain all the time. But we don't have the money to maintain, or we could get stolen. So it's just a dire consequence of mismanagement.
Yeah, thank you for that. By the way, on that first voice note, my mind keeps going back whenever that point gets made. Back in 2011, an organization called the Center for the Study of Violence and Reconciliation put out a publication. I think the lead author was Carl van Holt, who is one of our distinguished sociologists and academics, and there were a number of other people involved in it as well. And the title of that document was called The Smoke That Calls, and it really does look at this perception widely held that until such time as you do massive disruption and indeed, as was suggested there, destruction, and you create smoke that actually calls out and says, okay, this is getting serious now, nothing ever gets done. The subtitle to that manuscript, by the way, was Insurgent Citizenship, Collective Violence, and the Struggle for a Place in the New South Africa. As I said, that was 2011. 15 years later, I think we are having many of the same conversations. Maybe we'll get Carl van Holt on for a conversation and get him to reflect and look back on 15 years since he and a number of others put together that document. 702 Drive, it's 13 minutes past 5.
EWN Traffic.
EWN Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance. SMS out to 45142 now, and you could save on car insurance. If you don't, ask them for 500 Rand. Karabo, Mr. Rivonia. Charlie, still problems there, eh?
Yeah, I'm afraid things haven't changed. The situation remains pretty bad there in the Rivonia area. So allow for extra traveling time if you're leaving Midrand, Sandton, heading towards Four Ways, because we're still dealing with that overturned truck on the N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Patroon to change. As a result, bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road between Maxwell and Rivonia Road, as well as delays on Rivonia Road heading towards the N1 as well as Bowling Road. So avoid Rivonia if you can. Sandton traffic also heavily backed up heading towards Midrand. M1 northbound between Ethel Oaklands and the Patroon interchange. While in Ekurhuleni, Edenvale, slow-moving traffic, R24 westbound, that's heading towards Bedford View between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis Interchange in the city of Tshwane. Wonderboom, expect some delays on Steve Biko Road between Fred Nicholson and Wonderboom Hoërskool, Pretoria North. Also, heavy delays on Mansfield Road between Francina and Paul Kruger. And in Irene, traffic remains sluggish approaching the intersection of Nalmeipierce Drive and Main Road. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Love is in the air this month, but the aftercare teachers won't be feeling the love if you're late for pickup. Fortunately, the Outsurance pointsmen are here to ease the traffic congestion so you can get to the school on time. With the Outsurance pointsmen on the roads for the past 20 years, we can all get where we need to be quickly and safely. With Outsurance, you really always get something out. In proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using hashtag Pointsmen Love, licensed insurer and FSP.
Driving the conversation on 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Powered by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Okay, let's continue with the water situation in Johannesburg and pick up the story with this. Government leaders from every level, national, provincial and metro, currently on an oversight visit in Johannesburg. They are now at that stage where they are engaging with some of the residents who have taken to the streets to express their dismay at the long periods of time they have been having to deal with no water in their taps. And what we keep hearing is people's dissatisfaction with the explanations they're getting. So face-to-face they are, and our EWN reporter Dimakatso Lishoro is out in Brixton where these conversations are taking place. Dimakatso, very good afternoon to you. What's going on where you are now? Welcome to the show.
Hi, John. We've left Brixton. We are in Emiratia. We're actually at Marks Park. The mayor is going to do another media briefing. He went and met the residents who are demonstrating here on Berry Herzog and Julius in Emiratia. And he's come to he went there to try and speak to them and try to explain what's happening. I must say the residents are not happy. A lot of them calling for him to resign. And they're saying that there's no excuse why they haven't had water. In fact, they're saying that they haven't had any water tankers and they only came today because the mayor was coming and because there's a protest. That's what they're saying. So we understand that the minister is still en route to Joburg. She's not here yet. At Brixton, the mayor and the premier went there. They did a walkabout. There was nothing much that happened there. So we're here for a press briefing to hear what else they are going to say to us.
So Dimakatso, you say Premier Panyaza Lesufi, Executive Mayor of Joburg, Dada Morero, did a walkabout in Brixton. What were they looking at? What were they looking for?
You know, earlier the mayor had said that the tower is almost ready. It will be operational by the end of February. You know, there've been delays there, so they're saying that it's almost all systems go. So I think, you know, if I'm being honest, it's just a matter of optics, you know, just for camera people to see that they're doing something, but that something is not very clear at the moment. So they just went there, they did the walkabout, and now the mayor is here to address us, to speak to the media, to do another briefing. Nothing much happened there, you know, except to say that they are doing a walkabout and making sure that things will happen at the end of February as they are promising now.
I want to then come back to the interactions that you've just described for us, Dimakatso, out at Marks Park in Emiratia with Executive Mayor Dada Morero. I don't know if the Premier is still accompanying him, but what kind of issues? First of all, you've said that residents are just, you know, pretty angry and saying we think you should resign. But in the midst of expressions of that discontent, what are some of the questions they're asking the mayor, and what has caught your ear in regard to the answers?
They were asking him, first of all, they asked him the obvious question whether he has water in his house, and he admitted that he has water, and they were like, that's obvious, you know, but they wanted to know what's happened to the budget that's been allocated to water, what's happening with the engineers or whoever, the system that are not working at the moment, the fact that a lot of them don't have water for 8 days now and that they've not seen any tankers. They were asking what happened to the budget for tankers. Why is it that they have not had tankers and they themselves had to go into their pockets and find ways of getting water for themselves? And the mayor was saying that they have a budget that is set for tankers, an annual budget, I think around, I think 10 million rand or something like that. I could have the figure wrong, but he wasn't able to explain why is it that the residents have complained and they have not received any help. And they've made the point to him that they've been turned from pillar one to another when they're trying to raise their issues and complain about the lack of water, and they're not getting any assistance. And every time they're given reference numbers, but nothing seems to happen. And they're talking about the fact that the mayor, John, they keep raising the issue of consumption.
Yes.
And, the residents are saying that you can't be talking about consumption when we don't have water and we see burst pipes with water gushing on our streets while we don't have water. So which consumption are you talking about? So he has had to explain that there are areas from their mapping where they see that there is a lot of water consumption, but it doesn't talk to their concerns or their areas, because here there's no consumption because there is no water.
Yeah, and just finally, is this the last stop on the oversight visit trip? And do we know if the minister's going to make it in time or not?
I know there's something that they've scheduled for 6:30. I'm not sure if she's meant to be there because I understand that her flight was at 2:30 leaving Cape Town. So I assume that by that 6:30 event, she will be there. I must say that they've not been very forthcoming with information. Like literally, I've been driving behind them. If you are not with them, you don't know where they are going. And I've tried to request information. They're not answering phones in terms of the comms team. So it's very difficult. I've asked Elijah, who is the spokesperson for the provincial government, to ask what is the itinerary? Where are we going? What's going to happen? But we don't have set information. So we basically have to drive behind them and just hear what they say and just follow them and see what happens. I didn't even know that there was a press briefing. We only found out when we were there and the mayor was talking to the residents. And when I asked Elijah, where are we going now? He's like, no, there's a press briefing. I'm like, okay, we have to drive behind and now go to the press briefing. So we don't know what time the minister is coming. I've tried to reach out to her people that are answering phones either. So we just play by the ear.
Thank you so much, Dimakatso Lishoro, keeping an eye on those engagements. And I'm sure that as and when things happen, updates on their way in the various news bulletins that we have every half hour here. News headlines at 5:30, full bulletins at 6 o'clock. And so we go through each hour. Let's hear what some of you have to say. Many of you are talking about both water and protests. Let's take a listen.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Dr. John, good evening. Dr. John, the comrades have bought trucks to deliver water to each and every kasi. And if we are saying water must run in our pipes every day, it means comrades will not be able to eat and they will be unable to pay the trucks. Dr. John, the streets, the tar road that is made today, it rains today and then there's potholes. Why? Because there's a comrade that must go around fixing those potholes. It's a tender. You understand? So this is not a surprise to them. It's made that way. It's man-made. That's how things are supposed to happen according to these comrades. We are never going to have a proper service so long as we are still led by these comrades. They're doing it for themselves, for their stomach. So we are, I don't know. Dr. John, bye-bye.
Good afternoon, John and the 702 lenders. So now with this issue of protesting, and it's boring and it's very, 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 frustrating, yes. But then what is the point of going onto the streets and protesting and doing whatever, and then come election time, the people, they still vote for the very same government. So you will see election time, local elections, the very same people who are protesting today, they'll still be voting for the same government. So I don't know what kind of change do they want. You cannot do the same thing every day and expect different results. That's not going to happen to me in Joburg.
Hi, John. I'm from Johannesburg South, a place called Meerdale. I hear you talking about water crisis, but in our area, in my neighborhood, there's so many water leakages that's running for months on end, and it's clean water just wasting. So I can't understand, the urgency and the importance of, water when some areas have these issues and other areas don't even have water. Why are they not coming to fix these, leaking water drains and stuff like that? That's just wasting hundreds and hundreds of liters of fresh water. That's my question. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a very valid question. And in addition to the wastage of water, it is a massive waste of money. Because first of all, the water is meant to generate revenue, but secondly, the treatment of that water is a cost. It is a massive cost to the city, and then we, as the other part of this extremely vicious circle that the city is now locked in, is they say, well, there isn't money to fix the pipes because we're not getting revenue, and you're not getting revenue because all the water is running out of the pipes that you can't fix because you don't have revenue. I mean, it sounds almost like a nursery rhyme, except it isn't. It's an absolutely brutal reality for people who live and try to eke out some kind of living in the city, because the impact, by the way, on people trying to run small businesses is huge. I was engaging with someone a little bit earlier today about how medical facilities are able to run with uncertain water supply, and even large medical entities like hospitals can store some water, but they can't store it indefinitely. I just want to respond very briefly to what I think is a very valid point about how some people have a financial stake in infrastructure either breaking down or not being provided at all. And I remember in my early days at 702, I asked the question as to whether, because somebody I think had brought this up in regard to the Brits area, Northwest, that water infrastructure was being deliberately broken in order to serve the greed and the need for kickbacks that was involved in the water tender. And I said, is this happening? Is this happening in your area? And we just got call after call, people saying it happens all over the place. I do want to say this, though. I think there is crookedness involved. I think there is cruelty involved, because I can't think of another word for making money in this way. It is cruel and inhumane. But secondly, I think there is a monumental level of incompetence involved as well, where money is paid out for services to be delivered, for infrastructure to be either fixed or put in place if it wasn't there before. And I don't think there are inspectors out there. I don't think anyone checks sufficiently on the quality of work done, and it comes back to bite us. So I think we're in a perfect storm of both crookedness and incompetence. And we're paying the bill now in Joburg, big time. And all indications are it's probably going to get worse. 28 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, what kind of day we had on the markets? You made a very important clarification on the oil price, because I was looking at it go above 70. I think we were 60 and 61 at the beginning of the year. But first of all, you talked about dollar strength and maybe a shift. But over to you. A lot of things happening.
Indeed, John. Yes, good afternoon. So Brent still where it is, just above $70. A couple of reasons for that, but dollar weakness is part of it. The JSE All Share ending the day up 0.72, 121,753 points. Financials up 0.17. Industrials down 2/3%. Resources up 2.5%. And not just the gold and platinum miners, which have had a strong day, but Thungela is up nearly 8%. Sasol's up 5.47%. South 32 is also up 3.61%. We get the gold and platinum miners after that. Quilter's down 6.73% in the financial space, and Naspers is down 2.3%, while Truworths is down 1.65%. Aspen, the pharmaceutical company, putting out an update this evening. Headline earnings per share for the 6 months to December expected to be down by around 35%. There was restructuring manufacturing costs here. And in France, the cancellation of that contract with, we presume, a US company to produce mRNA vaccines last year, that's had a big impact on Aspen. He spent a huge amount of money on the production, and in the end, it doesn't happen. So you can just imagine what impact that is going to have. So today, Pan African Resources saying their headline earnings per share will be up by over 500%. Higher gold prices because of that, John. They were also able to take advantage. They increased their gold production by 50%. So all of that having a big impact on them as well. And Capitec saying their group headline earnings will be up by around between 20 and 25%. Predictions from OPEC of lower oil demand in the second quarter of the year, down by about 400,000 barrels. That is significant. We are in a period of kind of global oversupply of oil, so that should have a positive impact. In the U.S., jobs numbers out. The U.S. economy created 130,000 non-farm payroll-related jobs in January. People were expecting 70,000. That does lessen the case then for an interest rate cut. The Dow Jones is now up 0.07. The Nasdaq is up 0.08. The S&P 500 is up 0.22% on the day so far. The gold price, $5,077.22 an ounce. Platinum, $2,160.50. And Brent crude, $70.16. The rand to the dollar, 15.92. To the euro, 18.89. To the British pound, 21.74. John, on the Money Show, the DTIC looking to basically review trade partnerships to stop minerals being exported without being beneficiated first. We'll ask them what that really means, because the moment you try and do that, all sorts of other things start to happen. We'll look at beneficiation for South Africa's economy, not just to export. You've been talking about Eskom. We'll continue that conversation. Why so many new employers are demanding that new workers spend at least 3 days a week in the office. And then, John, our shapeshifter tonight, I'm quite excited to tell you, is someone I've watched for a very long time, someone you've watched for a very long time, Themba Bavuma. Indeed.
How fabulous.
Yes, is on the Money Show tonight from 7:30. So really excited to speak to Themba Bavuma, one of my own, don't tell him, heroes, from 7:30 tonight. Don't miss it. Stephen Curtis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. I will be camped outside the studio, ready for a selfie. But a fabulous guest, and what a life story he has to tell. Money Show coming up between 6 and 8. Themba Bavuma, shapeshifter, at 7:30. Right now it's 28 minutes to 6. Let's get the very latest updates on what's happening in the news. Mbali Dlamini keeping an eye on things for us. Good afternoon again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. A school in Benoni is facing criticism following allegations of discrimination against learners for their sexuality. Earlier today, learners staged a protest at Wordsworth High School after queer learners were allegedly forced to wear uniform in accordance to their gender. Community members protested in solidarity with the learners, demanding inclusivity at the school. Jabuli Limbata has more.
Community leader Lalis Kosana says the community members were alerted that on Monday this week, queer female learners were denied entry at the school when they were wearing school pants. The learners alleged that they were told females must wear dresses and boys must wear pants. Skosana says the learners were allegedly forced to change before they could be granted entry.
The principal specifically targeted the lesbian learners and told them there's a difference between men and women and that they should dress accordingly. The principal made them remove the school pants and forced them to wear dresses which were dirty, and one even had blood stains.
Yesterday, when the school made the same demands, parents and learners staged a march today to force the school to stop discriminating against the learners. Jabuli Limbata, Eyewitness News.
The Correctional Services Department has launched an international training academy to improve prison management. The Nelson Mandela Rules Training Academy was unveiled at the Drakensberg Correctional Centre in Paarl today. The academy is a UN-adopted blueprint for prison management in the 21st century. Natalie Malchas was at the launch.
The standard minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners was first adopted by the United Nations in 1955. These are a set of universally acknowledged guidelines for the management of prison facilities and the handling of offenders. As of 2015, these rules were renamed the Nelson Mandela Rules to honour the legacy of South Africa's first democratic president. Today, the South African government unveiled a facility to train local prison officers and guards from the SADC region at the Paarl prison where Nelson Mandela's long walk to freedom began. Correctional Services Minister Pieter Groenewald.
It is 122 rules that actually say how prisoners must be treated with dignity. It is open. Specifically, the SADC region countries will come and get some training here, but it's open for Africa, in fact. All over the world, if they want to come here, they're most welcome, and we will ensure that they get that training.
The training curriculum includes addressing overcrowding, conflict resolution, and prisoner rehabilitation models. Natalie Malgas, Eyewitness News, Drakenstein.
Industry leaders meeting at the annual Mining Indaba this week have been faced with growing calls to respond to shifts in technology. The calls come amid concerns that the implementation of new technology would lead to the replacement of people with machines. South Africa's mining industry is still considered a labour-intensive one, using physically demanding manual drilling methods. But the drawback involves safety issues, including life-threatening underground accidents. Deputy Director General at the Department of Mineral Resources, Tshidiso Maqubela, says technology must also be used to digitize the South African mining license system.
Very important for technology is the underlying data. If you have your data wrong, then everything else doesn't matter. So we want to make sure that what we roll out is something that, one, the right holder of the permit can vouch for.
And a U.S. citizen has been sentenced to 2 years and 8 months in prison for offering China sensitive information. It's understood the American, only identified as Martin D., shared the information while working as a civilian contractor at a U.S. military base in Germany. He was put on trial in a German court with proceedings held partly behind closed doors. Prosecutors say he contacted Chinese government agencies several times and offered to pass on sensitive information. He was arrested by German police in November 2024 and has been held in pre-trial detention since then. A partly cloudy Thursday in store for Gauteng tomorrow, with afternoon showers expected. Temperatures dropping to overnight lows of 19 degrees across the province, peaking at highs of between 30 and 32 degrees.
Rivonia, we still have that overturned truck, N1 southbound just after Rivonia Road, still causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Patlu interchange. As a result, we have bumper-to-bumper traffic on Witkoppen Road between Maxwell and Rivonia Road. Traffic also delayed on Rivonia Road as well as Bowling Avenue heading towards the N1.
The top story in EWN, a school in Benoni is facing criticism following allegations of discrimination against its learners for their sexuality.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Jolene Wasserman, to what extent do body corporates have to be subject to the Constitution?
In our Bill of Rights, you have a right to practice your cultural and religious beliefs. Can you slaughter in a body corporate?
I don't know. Can you?
Absolutely, because where do we get that from? The Bill of Rights. So we can practice our religious and cultural beliefs. You are even allowed to slaughter on the 20th floor of your apartment in the block.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Stop and think. Will you survive the AI revolution or thrive? Regenesis students are thriving. 11 cutting-edge schools, 111 countries. World-class team of 1,111 with one mission: awakening your potential. Choose from law, business, technology, AI, health, economics, entrepreneurship, public management, skills academy, and digital Regenesis. Undergraduate, postgraduate, upskilling, customized corporate programs. The question isn't, can you afford to enroll? It's, can you afford not to? Enroll now. Regenesis.net. Achieve your dreams.
The team's on a roll today. Let me focus on payroll. Duty calls in the kitchen. That's why I have a business insurer that is agile and on the ball all the time on all things. I chose My Way Business Insurance, getting 24/7 emergency service and saving on my premiums. Plus, my business assist to handle my admin.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. MyWay is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. MyWay. Live your way.
Managing your workforce shouldn't be complicated. That's why businesses choose Onacy, a proudly South African cloud-based payroll and HR solution. From payroll and e-recruitment to performance management and self-service tools, we streamline the way businesses handle their people. Scalable, secure, and always online, our system evolves with your needs because your workforce deserves the best. Switch to Onacy and experience payroll and HR done right. Visit onacy.com today. Fashion, art, and music all come together for one incredible day at Mahindra Fusion Fest 2026, powered by 702. To find out more, we chatted to Mahindra South Africa CEO Rajesh Gupta.
Mahindra Fusion Fest has been first conceived for South Africa last year, and this idea has a philosophy known as Ubuntu, about Vasudevaya Kutumbakam, which says the entire world is a family, which is saying together we rise. We've been working upon is celebrating this youthful vibrancy of this rainbow nation.
Hit primemediaplus.com for the full interview and get the lowdown on Mahindra Fusion Fest 2026, powered by 702, 7 March, Sunbet Arena. Tickets now at Ticketmaster.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
John, good afternoon. Good afternoon. The guy who just spoke now, he is actually telling the truth that no one will want to hear. And that John, that's true. That's true. That's the cycle. So, in any way, if they were to kill the tender system, I promise you, Dante John, we'll have proper services. If they were to kill this tender system. Thank you very much. Anonymous.
John, this is Jenny Rudaput. Yes, I agree with your caller. It's tender corruption. It's complete tender corruption. Why would they want to improve everything and make it last? They need to get more tenders, so they don't want it to last. They actually have trucks driving around sabotaging. I've seen trucks driving into poles, knocking them down, reversing, driving away. They do it on purpose because then they can get more tenders. All the traffic lights, all the street light bulbs, street lights. And definitely what your caller was saying, the fact that the road potholes, why do a good job and then you don't get called out to do it again? No, it makes sense.
John, we're complaining about the government that has run its course. There's no point, really. These guys can't even cut grass. They can't even fix actual pothole. Why do we actually expect them to actually then, deal with the water crisis? This is just absolutely beyond them. They can't cut grass on our roads. So change the government. That's the only, power you have. Just change the government.
Yeah, we've had some change in some metros. Hey, I concede it hasn't been wholesale change. There have been coalitions and other governing arrangements in place. I think something much more fundamental has to change. I'm also interested to know from you, by the way, and maybe I'll bring it up again tomorrow because we're going to do some music shortly and we've got sport coming up right now with Tola Kele. But is the tender system, in other words, the idea where there's a government contract either for the delivery of goods or particular services that needs to be fulfilled, is the idea of inviting a whole lot of companies to come and put in their bids, is that in and of itself fundamentally wrong, or is it the way it's being applied? So I don't know if people are saying we need to get rid of the tender system and have some other way of doing it, which would perhaps mean more competence, in inverted commas, being taken back into government, i.e., instead of getting somebody to fix the pipes, there's a government department of pipe fixing that does the job. I don't know. I hope the question I'm asking is clear, but is it a system that has been corrupted and will work if it isn't corrupted, or is there something wrong with the system that actually enables corruption? I'd like to get your views on that. 011 883 0702 and 0727 702 1702. RJ says, we need a commission on this water issue. There honestly is a level of corruption involved, more like what we had with load shedding. people, comrades, invested heavily in brand new trucks and water tanks under the impression of getting lucrative long-term contracts, and now their installments are overdue. And guess what's the best thing for them to do? 16 minutes to 6.
EWN Sport.
Tola Kele, lots coming out about that extraordinary match in the T20 World Cup, South Africa versus Afghanistan. What are the players saying?
Well, John Ryan Rickleton has revealed that it was Shukri Conrad's call to hand Keshav Maharaj the second super over in the T20 World Cup win over Afghanistan. Kagiso Rabada had delivered a shocking final over, which included 2 no-balls and a wide. That's during the regular game before Lungingidi conceded 17 runs in the first super over. But then against the run of play, the ball was thrown to Maharaj, with the Proteas needing to defend 23 in the second super over.
I actually was unsure. I thought KG or Marco was going to go, but it came from Shukri saying he thinks Kesh should go. And yeah, credit to where credit's due. I guess it worked. Came down to the last wire. We tried to change it up. I think bowl slow and wide and try to get them to hit over extra cover for 6 to the big boundary. That would be the thinking, which is probably the most difficult shot to do, I think. So I guess that would have been the plan. Just glad it came off.
England Test captain Ben Stokes has undergone successful surgery after being struck in the face by a cricket ball. Last week, he posted a picture showing his eye heavily swollen and bruised, a grace on his cheek and lip, and a bandage stuffed in his nose. He then followed it up yesterday with the picture of his swollen face while in hospital, as he confirmed that his surgery was a success. It's not clear how long he'll be out for, as England begin their home Test season against New Zealand at Lord's on the 4th of June. Switching over to the Premier League, where Pep Guardiola insists Erling Haaland should not put too much pressure on himself to consistently score for Manchester City. Haaland's stoppage time penalty against Liverpool on Sunday was just his 3rd goal in 10 appearances, with only one of those coming from open play. And afterwards, he stated that he must improve his output, despite having scored 28 goals in 36 appearances this season.
The problem Erling has to deal with his own numbers, with his expectations. It's not easy to do that for many, many years. So that is the challenge for him. You know, when your expectations is 5 goals a season, you can improve. And expectations arrive here. We want the treble because he arrived and scored I don't know how many goals in the first season. The expectations are there. It looks like when they score 4 or 5 games without playing, what happened?
And Racing 92 have revealed that Hachima Daimani is leaving the French top 14 club with immediate effect. That's to return to the Stormers. The loose forward arrived in Paris in July 2024 on a 2-season contract, but has been granted an early release. Daimani will reportedly be available for the Stormers' next match against the Lions at Ellis Park on the 28th of February. Tolagile Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
13 minutes now to 6 EWN Traffic is brought to you by South African Airways. Make your move this Valentine's. Book your romantic getaway at flysaa.com. Karabo Charlie, the traffic news, the very latest from you, please, whether we like to hear it or not.
Well, in the Rivonia area, we're still dealing with that overturned truck on the N1 southbound after Rivonia Road, slowing down traffic from the Bethlehem interchange. As a result, there is now bumper-to-bumper traffic on Bowling Road as well as Witkoppen Road, so avoid that route if you can. And Sandton, traffic remains heavily backed up heading towards Midrand M1 northbound from Ethel Oaklands to the Bethlehem interchange, while in Germiston, traffic heavily backed up heading towards Boksburg. That's on the R24 eastbound between the Kilulis interchange and Jed Park Road. It's the N12 east. In Edenvale, we also have slow-moving traffic. R24 westbound heading towards Bedfordview between Edenvale Road and the Kilulis interchange. Wonderboom, Pretoria. Expect about a 20-minute delay on Steve Biko Road between Fred Nicholson and the Wonderboom Boer School, and in Pretoria North, also delays on Mansfield Road between Francina and Paul Kruger. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Valentine's weekend is almost here, and this is your sign. Make the move. South African Airways has amazing fares to your favorite destinations. Fly to Cape Town from just 1,144 Rand, Durban from 690, and Gqeberha from 655 Rand. And that's just the beginning. Explore even more destinations. Take yourself to flysaa.com. Make the move. Surprise your loved one. Make it a Valentine's weekend to remember. Book now at flysaa.com or contact your nearest travel agency. T's and C's apply.
Stay with 702 Afternoon Drive with John Perlman. Brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
702 Drive, it's 11 minutes to 6. We're going to play you some music now, and hopefully you're going to send us some music that you would like us to play. The theme for today is simply this: music that references in some way radio, talks about radio, listening to the radio, DJs, etc. Songs that in some way connect with the medium that we're on right now, songs about radio. This is a absolute South African classic, one of my favorite songs by the group Stimela, and it gives a very simple advice: listen to your radio.
Hey, people, listen to your radio. Stop and Mama's voice has a notion for you. Some people write songs about broken heart. Ain't seen a broken heart man, no. Heart stealers looking through broken windows with satisfied looks in their eyes. I won't walk on here. Whose song is it about the way love has lost its meaning? Eagles have taken the lead. Whose heart is a silver string lovers get hurt? It's no more two-way traffic, it's one way. It's a joke. I am feeling good. Every morning, when looking at the mirror, what you feel? Tell me, are you gonna keep on lying to yourself?
Fabulous. Ray Perry and Stimela. Listen to your radio from the album Look, Listen and Decide. So yours please, songs that mention or reference or have radio in the title. You decide which you're going to send our way, but send it please on 702 1702 or call us if you like on 011 883 0702.
The Midday Report.
Weekdays
12 to 1.
Well, you may have seen the video of the DA mayoral candidate Helen Zille cooling off in a great big water leak in Linbro Park. The DA announcing it is going to go to court over the water situation in the city of Joburg. Why is the DA deciding to go to court over this issue?
We've been looking at the water crisis now for a long time, and there is a very good turnaround strategy. There's no money allocated to that turnaround strategy, and it's not being implemented.
The Midday Report
With Mandy Wiener.
12 to 1 on 702.
702.
When tax issues get complex, you need more than general advice. You need specialist insight. AJM turns intricate tax challenges into clear strategic solutions. From disputes and litigation to long-term planning, our expertise protects what matters to you and your business. With teams in Cape Town, Johannesburg, and Namibia, we deliver the rigorous analysis high-stakes decisions demand. AJM. Complex tax matters simply resolved.
When it comes to protecting your workforce, trust the workwear brand that has been protecting workers for over 150 years, Sweetall. Sweetall has overalls and uniform solutions for every industry, so your team is safe, comfortable, and ready to tackle any challenge. Visit our Boksburg showroom, shop A1 Atlas Road, Westwood, Boksburg, or go to sweetall.com today. Sweetall, we never let you down. Superior protective workwear since 1871.
You may not know this, but that genius, Albert Einstein, he never wore socks. Which proves that even the smartest people aren't always smart. But you can shop like an absolute genius at DecoFern Furniture with unbeatable deals on office chairs, desks, and much more. Plus up to 50% off end-of-range items. Work smarter, study smarter, and definitely shop smarter at Decophone Furniture right now, in store or at decophoneSA.co.za.
702 is in conversation with Capitec, discussing how South Africans can protect themselves against financial crime.
It allows the fraudster to choose a number that they wish, so they can present themselves to be your bank's fraud department or even worse, SAPS. And this perfectly imitates. So even if you're using something like a true caller, unfortunately it's at a network layer, so it fools even those sort of call verification services. And really what they do is once that number comes in, they've now created this fear and urgency. And once you answer, they're really going to use things that trigger strong emotional responses from you to try and get you to stop thinking. And it's going to be things like, hey, there's a fraudulent transaction in your account is about to be closed, your money's at risk, or we found drugs or passports at customs, and then really they're going to try and get that fear factor of you raised in your mind.
Slam the scam with Capitec. Capitec is an authorized financial services provider and registered credit provider.
702 Drive with John Perlman was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John. Definitely Radio Gaga by Queen. All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo.
Good afternoon, Dr. John and 702 Landers. It's an easy choice, man. All you need is Radio Gaga by the Queen. So yeah, Obi Chablani.
Matt says Queen, Radio Gaga, specifically the 1985 Live Aid performance. Dima says, afternoon and Tata John and the team. Queen's Radio Gaga. I think we get it. I think we've played it. Clearly a big, big fan fave. What else is out there?
Hey, Tata John and team. How about Listen to the Radio by Don Williams?
Tate John, Dumela, good afternoon. Please hit me with Von Chaka Chaka. Thank you, Mr. DJ, for playing my song. Thank you. You know it. Please, Tate John, make my evening.
The title track from Ivan Chaka Chaka's third studio album, written with Silo Chico Twala, Ati van Wyk and Herbert Kulu. Really good stuff there. One more.
Good evening, all, and the song from me is Video Killed the Radio Star. Of course, that was the first song or the first video that MTV played so many years ago, and MTV is no longer, so that was a bit of poetic justice for them, I suppose. So Video Killed the Radio Star. I forget who sings it. Thanks for a good show.
Yeah, the Buggles. Video Killed the Radio Star. No Time to Play. I'm Still Standing by Elton John. This has been on radio. 702 Drive. Good night to you. I'm John Perlman.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes. Live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa Corporate and Investment Banking, balancing economic growth with ecosystems. That's how they're invested in